Chapter 1670. For June Mayan to be able to become the Lord of Clear Sky, that means that her identity is absolutely not suspicious. Diyudeo's complexion alternates between green and white. He looks at Mu Yen with a gaze that wishes to tear her body into 10,000 pieces. It was that woman again. It was her again. Why did this slut have to ruin his plans every single time? June Mayan, since you have nothing to do with this devil cultivator Suiluan, why don't you get out of the way and let me kill him? Mu Yen, however, shakes her head, that won't do. I was entrusted by someone to save Vice Dean Su's life. Meng Baichuan asked curiously, who did it? Mayan's fingers are placed on the Tian Mo Chin, gently moving. However, the music she played was very strange. It had no beginning or end, and it did not seem like she was playing a complete piece of music. Instead, it seemed like she was playing with someone else, so it was intermittent. Di Yudao was furious. If you don't say it, it means that you are making excuses. However, the next moment, the girl's pleasant voice, accompanied by the melodious music, interrupted him. The person who asked me to save him is the dean of the Alcade branch, Ning Yaoguang. As soon as these words came out, the scene instantly quietened down. Di Yudeo's angry face suddenly froze. His expression seemed to be forcibly distorted before it froze on his face. Suiluan's eyes were filled with despair, hatred, and darkness. After hearing these words, he abruptly raises his head and looks at Mayan in disbelief. What did you just say? Even Meng Baichuan and the deans couldn't help but exclaim, Junior Sister Yaoguang. Did Junior Sister Yaoguang really entrust this to you? Where was she? You really saw her? Mu Yan pursed her lips, revealing a faint smile, but didn't say anything. Meng Baichuan glanced at Suiluan and suddenly sighed. Junior Sister Yaoguang doted on this student the most back then. Now that he has fallen into the demonic path, it's possible that she wants to save him. Maybe there's a reason why he turned into a demon. Why don't we keep him alive and listen to what he has to say? After all, he's someone Junior Sister Yaoguang wants to save. Impossible. Di Yudao suddenly let out a hysterical roar. How could Ning Yaoguang entrust you? It's impossible for her to entrust you. She was clearly. Di Yudeo's voice suddenly stopped, and his face was filled with terror. Obviously by what? Mu Yen said with a beaming smile, it was clearly sealed by you behind this cliff, and it was impossible for me to encounter it outside, and it was impossible for me to entrust it to you, right? Di Yudao suddenly widened his eyes, looking at her as if he had seen a ghost. How did you know? Almost slipped out of his mouth. Meng Baichuan, what? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by being sealed behind this cliff? Mu Yen sneered, otherwise, why do you think Vice Principal Su would risk his life to protect this talisman array? That was because this talisman formation was not a demon-gathering formation, but a reincarnation formation used to break the seal and allow Ning Yaoguang to see the light of day again and regain her freedom. Unfortunately, the reincarnation formation was destroyed by you at the most crucial moment. No. This is impossible. Meng Baichuan shook his head repeatedly. Yaoguang is our junior sister. Senior brother Zhai doted on her the most back then. How? How is this possible? Mu Yen, people's hearts are fickle. Jealousy and greed can make people change beyond recognition. Dean Meng, look at senior brother Zhai beside you. Does he still have the strength of character and appearance from back then? Chapter 1671. Meng Baichuan looks at Di Yudao in a daze, only to see that his brows are sharp and his eyes are filled with coldness and tyranny, as well as a trace of imperceptible panic. His heart thumps, and his eyes slowly widen. Di Yudao shouts angrily, June Mayan, don't try to mislead people with your lies. What reincarnation array? It's just your one-sided words. Suiluan is now a cruel and tyrannical devil cultivator, and you actually said that he arranged a reincarnation array and not a giant demon array. Ha ha ha, do you really think that everyone here will be bewitched by your absurd words? Whether it's absurd or not, wouldn't it be clear if we witness it with our own eyes? Mayan smiles, takes out an array disc, and throws it at the broken mountain wall. As soon as the array disc touches the mountain wall, it immediately attaches to it. A dazzling light suddenly spreads out in all directions with the array disc as the center. In the blink of an eye, the falling rubble seems to be attracted by something, and one after another, they fly up and reform the mountain wall. And the light of the array, which was originally extinguished, shines once again. This is reverse cultivation ancient. This is the reverse cultivation ancient array disc. Only one in the entire Shoshin continent can repair all talisman arrays below rank 9. I heard that this reverse cultivation ancient array disc has always been in young Master Yun Zhao's hands. How could Jun Mayan have it? The people of the Xiaoyao sect are also shocked and they see the array disc that Mayan threw out. They didn't expect that little martial uncle would give such a precious, reverse cultivation ancient, array disc to junior sister. Ah, little martial uncle really dotes on junior sister, the only successor of the way of the sword. Only Chu Molit secretly chuckles, secretly despising his fellow apprentices and sisters, this group of ignorant mortals. Little martial uncle's kindness to little martial sister was not something that could be summed up by the words master to disciple and successor. Suiluan suddenly turns his head to look at the reincarnation array that has lit up again, and tears instantly fill his eyes. Yao Guang, he looks at Mayan and says in a trembling voice, who are you? Why are you helping me? Mayan, I said, I was entrusted by someone. How is this possible? Yao Guang wouldn't entrust you. Suiluan glares at Mayan. Before Mu Yan could answer, Xiao Bao said coldly, can't you hear the sound of the zither? What's that sound? Xiao Bao pulled a long face, his expression one of disdain. He's been playing for so long, and he's even echoing with mother. Can't you guys hear him? Mu Yan glanced at the dodging behind her, and slowly said, as early as when I first entered the Yaoguang branch, I often heard intermittent zither sounds, but I couldn't find out who was playing the zither. Thus, I also played the zither in response. Slowly, we became close friends through the sound of the zither. Although I can't completely understand what she wants to express, I can feel her resentment, pain, and despair. However, amidst such despair and resentment, he still maintained a trace of carefreeness and arrogance, as well as a pure heart that could not be destroyed no matter what. It is precisely this kind of magnanimous and free zither music that makes Mayan unconsciously regard this person as a confidant. She wants to understand more about her and help her. Especially after the end of the Tri-Academy tournament, he felt Yudeo's fear of the All-Cade institution secret. Thus, Mayan secretly investigated some information, and then found out. It turns out that a few decades ago, Yu Dao, Meng Baichuan, and Ning Yaoguang entered the Starry School together. Chapter 1672. At that time, the All-Cade branch was the weakest branch in the entire Starry School. Of course, the number of people in the All-Cade branch was not as terrifying as it was now. There were only 7. But there were less than 100 people, and more than 90% of them were support musicians without any combat ability. Ning Yaoguang, Yu Dao, and Meng Baichuan came from the same sect. But only Ning Yaoguang insisted on entering the All-Cade branch, which mainly consisted of musicians. Yu Dao and Meng Baichuan loved this little junior sister very much. Seeing that she had to waste her time in the trashiest All-Cade branch, they were heartbroken. Almost everyone thought that Ning Yaoguang, the new star who had performed well in the entrance examination, would gradually lose all her brilliance in the dilapidated All-Cade branch. However, the Tri-Academy tournament held the following year made everyone's jaws drop. In that tournament, the All-Cade branch could only choose 10 people to participate. 2 of them had no combat ability at all. Usually, they just showed up on the stage and left in a hurry. However, with the help of Ning Yaoguang's almost nature-defying erosion, this team of 8 advanced triumphantly. At that time, Ning Yaoguang was like June Mayan. She could both support and fight. In the semi-finals and finals, they did not crush their opponents like the Xiaoyao school, but they still managed to win by working together. Back then, the name of Polaris Zither Master, Ning Yaoguang was known by everyone in the 3 academies. The current chiefs of the 3 schools, Li Wenyuan, Xing Danqing, and Di Yudao, were all defeated by Ning Yaoguang in the tri-school tournament. After that, Ning Yaoguang, Di Yudao, and Meng Baichuan all graduated from the Starry School and returned to their sects, traveling everywhere. A few years later, they became teachers in the Starry School. Because Di Yudao was appreciated by the college chief at that time, he was quickly promoted to vice college chief. He promoted Ning Yaoguang and Meng Baichuan to All-Cade branch and Tianshu branch respectively. Everything seemed to be harmonious and the Starry School became stronger and stronger. Especially the All-Cade branch. Under Ning Yaoguang's management, more and more powerful musicians appeared. However, a few years later, Ning Yaoguang suddenly disappeared one day. She only left a letter saying that she was going on a long journey. No one knew why she had left or where she had gone, but from then on, no one had seen any trace of her. Combining the emotions she felt from the sound of the zither, the information she had found, Su Yiluan's narration and Di Yudao's reaction, Mu Yan could guess what had happened back then. Su Yiluan stared at her blankly. Why, you can really hear Yaoguang's music. How is she now? Is she doing well? Just as Mu Yan was about to answer, a flying boat suddenly sped down from the front. Suddenly, dozens of golden core cultivators jumped down from the flying ship. They surround Mu Yan and Su Yiluan. Seeing the attire of these golden core stage cultivators, Meng Baichuan's expression changed. You're the subordinates of the Tian clan. How did you get into Starry School? The Tian family was also a great aristocratic family in the Azure Blue world. Its strength was second only to the Nalan family, the Lu family, and the Murong family. It was even slightly more prominent than the Duan family and the Feng family. However, even if it was the Tian clan, they should not have been able to send people into the Starry School so easily. Chapter 1673. One must know that there was a barrier around the 3 academies. Without an identity token, one could not enter. Di Yudao said coldly, I asked them to come. The leader of the Tian family was a tall man with a long face. His eyes were like a hawk's, but they were not sharp, but wretched and cunning. Exterminating demons and protecting the Tao is the duty of every cultivator. My Tian family has always been on good terms with Starry School. It is our duty to kill the demonic cultivators. After speaking, he turned to Mu Yan and Su Yiluan. When he saw Mu Yan's face, he gasped. His eyes were filled with obsession and greed. But soon, he calmed down. Chief Shai, the demonic cultivators you mentioned are these 2. That's right. Di Yudao's gaze swept across Mu Yan and Su Yiluan. Su Yiluan is a demonic cultivator. Jun Mu Yan and the rest of the All-Cade branch colluded with demonic cultivators and wanted to do evil. They deserve to die. The horse-faced cultivator immediately said, Haha, don't worry, Chief Shai. We will bring them back to the Tian family immediately to interrogate them. We will make them confess all the plans of the demonic cultivators. After speaking, he waved his hand and the group immediately attacked Mu Yan. Meng Baichuan said angrily, Di Yudao, what are you doing? What am I doing? Killing the demons, of course. The horse-faced cultivator laughed coldly. Chief Xing, Chief Meng, are you trying to protect the demonic cultivators? Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan, who wanted to stop them, were immediately stopped. Di Yudao said to the horse-faced cultivator, Friend Tian, don't underestimate these people, especially Jun Muyen. She is the leader of the Green Cloud sect, Yi Liangqin. The rest of the Alcade branch are not simple either. Why don't you and I? Before he could finish speaking, the horse-faced cultivator had already waved his hand carelessly and said in disdain, just a group of little bastards in the stage of fasting. Do you think they can turn the sky upside down under my hands? The horse-faced cultivator was already in the 9th level of the Golden Core. He was only slightly weaker than the Starry School's branch deans. Most of the teachers were not his match. His subordinates were all Jindan Shouja. More than 10 Jindan stage experts against 7 young men and women in the Enidia stage, plus a dying fiendish cultivator. No matter how one looked at it, it was a crushing defeat. The horse-faced cultivator laughed and said, Dean Jai, just watch from the side. If we can't take down these little bastards in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, I'll cut off my head and let them use it as a chamber pot. Ha ha ha, that's right. They're just a bunch of fasting stage trash. We only need to use 50% of our power to make them cry for their parents. If we lose, we won't be able to make a living anymore. However, half an hour later, the ground was littered with groaning muscular men, each of them moaning and howling in pain. Ling Yuma stepped on the horse-faced cultivator's head with one foot and revealed a carefree smile. You just said that if you can't take us down in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, you'll take off your head and let us use it as a chamber pot. The horse-faced cultivator's eyes were filled with shock. He stared at Mu Yen and the little boy beside her, unable to believe what had happened in the past half an hour. He was a 9th-level Golden Core cultivator. He had rushed towards Jun Mu Yen immediately, thinking that he could take her down easily. He was even thinking about how he would humiliate such a beauty in the name of interrogating her before handing her over to his master. Chapter 1674. But he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, the spiritual power within his body would be disturbed by the zither music, and his movements would become sluggish. Then, without waiting for him to react, he was ruthlessly beaten up by the 5-year-old child next to Jun Mayan. And then everything was like a runaway wild horse, going in a completely unimaginable direction. The horse-faced cultivator was beaten black and blue, unable to get up, and his subordinates were lying around him in disorder. He still didn't understand how things turned out like this. Weren't they Jindan stage cultivators? Weren't their opponents a group of fasting stage boys and girls? Why? Why did they fail? And why did they lose so miserably? Even Meng Baichuan and Xing Danqing are stunned. God, what a terrible group of students are they? Even the Yaoguang branch that Ning Yaoguang led back then couldn't be this powerful. 7 fasting stage cultivators were able to firmly suppress more than 10 Jindan stage cultivators. Especially the domains that Yun Ruhan and Leng Yuma displayed, they were several times more tyrannical than when they faced the fantasy team in the 3 Academies tournament. In the 3 Academies tournament, the people of the Xiaoyao team simply didn't display their full strength. What's even more shocking is not the people of the Xiaoyao school, but the little boy next to Jun Mayan. A 5-year-old child facing the horse-faced cultivator, a 9th stage Jindan stage expert. He actually rubbed him against the ground the whole time. Even with the help of Jun Mayan's zither music, this is still too outrageous. And the sword in his hand makes Di Yudao even more shocked and aghast. Did he see it wrong? Why does this sword look so much like the Bixia sword that Master asked him to guard? No. This is absolutely impossible. How could the Bixia sword that even such a powerful master couldn't tame appear in the hands of a 5-year-old child? He must have seen it wrong. Yes, he must have seen it wrong. Diyu Dao awoke from his shock, and his eyes once again focus on the mountain wall. Reincarnation array to devour it would take about half an hour to complete. Just now, Suiluan was about to complete the array, so he had to recalculate the half an hour. But now, the completion of the reincarnation array is getting closer and closer. If he really let Ning Yaoguang come out, everything would be over. Diyu Dao's pupils suddenly contracted. He suddenly leaped up and fiercely slashed at the ancient cultivation array on the mountain wall. As long as the ancient cultivation array was broken, the array would naturally collapse again. What Diyu Dao wants is to catch everyone off guard while their attention is focused on Jun Mayan and the horse-faced cultivator. However, he did not know that there was a person in the crowd whose attention had never left the reincarnation formation. Almost at the same time as Diyu Dao of Diyu Dao, action, Su of Su of Su of Su of, the reverse ancient cultivation disc and the reincarnation formation behind him were still in good condition. He had protected them with his life. D of. Just as his voice falls, an attack that carries 100% of his cultivation fiercely falls towards the top of Suiluan's head. Mayan abruptly turns around, wanting to save him, but it's already too late. Chapter 1675. Almost at the same time, the rune on the rune suddenly shone brightly. The already dazzling light suddenly became as bright as fireworks. Rumble. The huge mountain wall collapsed, and dust flew everywhere. The surging sound of the zither poured out from the collapsed mountain wall. There were raging waves and raging flames of anger, but there was also a trace of pain and gentleness. Bang! A powerful force collided with Diyu Dao's attack in the air. The air waves rolled, and the earth shook. Diyu Dao's whole body seemed to be slapped by a huge palm. He landed heavily on the ground and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Suiluan only felt that his body and soul were collapsing in waves of tearing pain. But all of a sudden, a familiar hand gently supported him and pulled his battered body into an embrace. He opened his eyes absent-mindedly, and a picturesque face reflected in the bottom of his eyes. His weak heart that almost couldn't beat violently trembled. Tears unconsciously blurred his eyes. He murmured with a hoarse voice, "Yao Guang. Yao Guang. Is that you?" "It's me." A low sigh sounded in his ears, with blame, with a sigh, and dense heartache. "Aw Su, didn't I tell you to let go of the stubbornness in your heart? But after so many years, why are you still so stupid?" Suiluan heard the familiar voice, the familiar blame, but his face showed a dazed smile. After so many years, the only light and warmth left in his heart was that stubbornness and that figure. If he abandoned it, what would be left in his life? But fortunately, his stubbornness was correct. He finally saved Yao from being devoured. Light. He finally fulfilled his original vow. The gentle night wind blew over his body that was covered with cuts and bruises. The pain had made him lose all other senses. But inexplicably, he felt so happy and peaceful, as if a dusty memory in the bottom of his heart was suddenly opened by someone and placed in front of him, so precious and precious. 18 years ago. You are the first in this year's assessment, Ilungsu. Why did you choose to come to Yaoguang branch? Ilungsu turned his head and met the woman's eyes, which were as bright as the stars in the summer night. The unkind words that were about to come out of his mouth somehow became, "No, it's none of your business." Ning Yaoguang laughed, "I'm the dean of the Alcade branch, and you're a student of the Alcade branch. How can I not care about you? By the way, what instrument are you best at?" "Blow flute." "Playing the piano?" "Pipe." Ilungsu was dumbfounded. What instrument was that? He was a sword cultivator, so why would he learn that damn instrument? Ha! You don't know anything. How can we do that? Everyone in the Alcade branch must know a musical instrument. Even if you are not a musician, you must learn it. Lungsu rejected without even thinking. He had come to the starry school to cultivate and improve his abilities. He wanted to become the #1 swordsman in the azure blue world. Who would want to learn musical instruments? However, Ning Yaoguang didn't give him a chance to refuse. I think you should just learn the zither. No one in our academy studies the zither. It wasn't easy for me to find an ancient music score that required a zither and a zither to play together, but I didn't even have anyone who could play with me. Alright, it's decided. I'll teach you. The woman's hand was so soft and white. She held his bronze-colored hand lightly and taught him how to play. A delicate fragrance wafted into his nose, like a feather, gently tugging at his heartstrings. Lungsu blushed. Chapter 1676. From then on, Lungsu's gaze fell more and more on this dean, who did not seem like a dean at all. Ning Yaoguang's looks were elegant, but her personality was that of a man, magnanimous and straightforward. Almost all the students in the Alcade branch, regardless of gender, were friends with her. Some students did not even call her teacher or dean, but called her Sister Ning. For some reason, Lungsu always called her by her name. Ning Yaoguang corrected him a few times. I'm your teacher, shouldn't you at least call me sister or dean? However, Lungsu did not care, and always called her Yaoguang. When he was only 25 years old, he had already broken through the golden core stage. Ning Yaoguang was already at the nascent soul stage at that time, and her cultivation was much higher than Lungsu's. However, she was more interested in training her musician skills, so whenever she went out, Lungsu would follow her to protect her. Ning Yaoguang was amused. I'm a nascent soul cultivator, the dean of the Alcade branch, and I need a kid to protect me? Then wouldn't I be regressing? When Lungsu heard this, he did not know why, but he felt an indescribable rage, and coldly said, I'm not a kid. He slapped away Ning Yaoguang's hand that was touching his head. In the end, Ning Yaoguang could not dissuade him, and allowed him to go with her. In the forest, the two of them really met with danger. It was a secret region left behind by a devil cultivator. That devil cultivator was an evil cultivator like the All-Pleasure sect, except that the All-Pleasure sect was made up of females, and they specialized in seducing males to become cultivation vessels. This devil cultivator was a male, and he specialized in seducing females with purine physiques to throw themselves at him, so that he could absorb their yin energy for his own use. Ning Yaoguang accidentally entered the formation, and lost consciousness, and was almost caught by the demonic cultivator. It was Lungsu who risked his life to save her, and carried her through the devil's swamp, escaping the pursuit of the demonic cultivator. The two of them were trapped in a cave in the devil swamp. Lungsu's spiritual energy was almost depleted, while Ning Yaoguang's body was burning because of the strange formation. She hugged Lungsu and kissed his lips. Lungsu already had deep feelings for Ning Yaoguang. How could he endure the woman he loved throwing herself into his arms? Thus, it was a night of tumultuous love. When Ning Yaoguang woke up, she felt remorseful and blamed herself. When Lungsu confessed to her, she rejected him without hesitation. Ning Yaoguang said, "You're my student, which means you're my disciple. It's against the norm for us to be together. This time, it was my fault, but since it was my fault, I must correct it." Lungsu, Ning Yaoguang, have you forgotten? I've never called you a mentor, nor have I ever called you a dean. What kind of master and disciple are we? In my heart, you're only Ning Yaoguang, the woman I love. I know I'm not strong enough now, and I'm not worthy of you, but one day, I will become a man worthy of you. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and protect you. Ning Yaoguang was shocked by Lungsu's words. She returned to the Alcade branch dejectedly, and found that Ilungsu had not returned. She had rejected him, but from then on, her mind was filled with Ilungsu's figure. Chapter 1677. A man who hated playing the zither but was willing to learn patiently for her. When training in the forest, he would always stay by her side, hunting beasts for her and cooking delicious food for her. No matter how she corrected him, he would always call her Yaoguang. And under the moon, when he played the zither with her, the gentleness in his eyes seemed to melt water. Ning Yaoguang finally had to admit that she was moved by Ilungsu. Just then, Di Yudao was officially promoted from Starry School's deputy college chief to the college chief. He confessed to Ning Yaoguang. Di Yudao poured out his feelings for Yaoguang for so many years, and that fiery love devoured him. He said, "Junior sister Yaoguang, I am not as strong as you. In the past, I was afraid that I was not good enough for you. But now, I am finally the college chief of Starry School. From now on, I can give you the best life. You will be respected and envied by others. Yaoguang, will you marry me?" Ning Yaoguang rejected him without hesitation. Di Yudao had always been proud but also had a deep sense of inferiority. So this time, he had confessed to Yaoguang because he was confident. He did not expect Yaoguang to reject him. Di Yudao was ashamed and angry, but he did not show it on his face. He just left sadly, making Ning Yaoguang feel very guilty towards this honest big brother. But she had only treated Di Yudao as a brother. Moreover, she already had Ilungsu in her heart. She had already made up her mind to resign from her position as the college chief of Alcade branch to find Ilungsu and tell him about her feelings. However, just as Yaoguang was about to leave Alcade branch, she suddenly realized that the number of students in Alcade branch decreased one after another. At first, it was only the outer yard. Later, even a few students from the inner yard disappeared. Moreover, this did not only happen in Alcade branch. Students from other branches also disappeared. But these missing students were mostly lone cultivators with no power or background. Most of them did not have good friends in the school. So their disappearances did not cause much of a commotion. Most people thought that they had gone out to train or felt that cultivating in Starry School was too hard, so they did not want to return. Such a situation had happened before in the Starry School. However, Ning Yaoguang felt that something was wrong. She had always been on good terms with the students of the branch courtyard, regardless of whether they were from the outer courtyard or the inner courtyard. That was why many of the solitary students didn't interact with other classmates, but treated her as the only person they could trust. As for those missing students, they had clearly said that they wanted to learn the skills of musicians from her. How could they have disappeared for no reason? Therefore, Ning Yaoguang went to look for Di Yudao, hoping that he would investigate the disappearance of the students. Di Yudao had always granted his junior sister's request, so he immediately said that he would ask the student council to conduct a thorough investigation. However, the final result was still disappointing. Di Yudao hugged the depressed Ning Yaoguang and comforted her gently, "Junior sister, don't be sad. Maybe these people really went out to train." As he spoke, he hugged Ning Yaoguang even tighter and kissed her involuntarily. "Yaoguang, seeing you so sad, seeing your brother's heart hurts. Let me take care of you from now on, okay?" Ning Yaoguang suddenly came to her senses and pushed him away. She refused again without hesitation. "Senior brother, I'm sorry. I already have someone I like." Chapter 1678. She had fled in a hurry, hence she did not see Di Yudao's twisted expression. Di Yudao quickly sent people to investigate the people around Ning Yaoguang, and quickly found out about Ilungsu. Di Yudao hated Ilungsu to the core, and was driven mad with jealousy. Especially when he found out that Ilungsu and Ning Yaoguang had been intimate, he felt that Ning Yaoguang had betrayed him, and his hatred for Ning Yaoguang grew. Di Yudao pretended to tell Ning Yaoguang that there was news of the missing students. However, he had secretly drugged Yaoguang's tea, wanting to defile her. Who knew that after Yaoguang had been through the formation of the devil cultivators, her body had changed, and she was resistant to such drugs. At that critical moment, Ning Yaoguang woke up. She looked at the senior brother she had respected since young, and saw him in such a hideous state. She could not believe it. Diyu replied, "Ning Yaoguang, you brought this upon yourself. It was you who betrayed me first, you slut. I've been so good to you. Even when I was looking for students to experiment on, I would look for students from other faculties, not Alcade. Yet, you had an affair with that lowly student of yours. How am I not good enough? Why would you choose that trash, and not be the dean's wife?" Ning Yaoguang's eyes widened in shock. "You were the one who captured the students. What did you do to them?" Di Yudao laughed out loud, and brought Ning Yaoguang to the underground laboratory, to show her the students who had turned into monsters. He spoke, "Yaoguang, I'm currently helping a noble person. As long as I succeed, I can go to the purple cloud world and become a respected person. As long as you follow me, I can guarantee that your future." Before he could finish, Ning Yaoguang spat viciously on his face. "Di Yudao, you devil, bastard, you disgust me. You want me to be with you, I'll die." Di Yudao flew into a rage, and locked Ning Yaoguang up. He even forged Yaoguang's notes and left behind a letter, making Meng Baichuan and the others think that Yaoguang had resigned from her position as dean and left. Just like that, Ning Yaoguang was locked up for 3 months, and Di Yudao would come every day to ask if she had changed her mind, only to be chased away. Di Yudao became more and more irritable, and his hatred towards Yilungsu grew deeper and deeper. In the end, number 7 Yilungsu came to find him when he heard that Ning Yaoguang had left. How could Di Yudao allow Yilungsu to live with the old and the new enmity? He fed the beast soul pellet to Yilungsu right in front of Ning Yaoguang, causing Ning Yaoguang to watch as Yilungsu turned into a monster and threw him into the Fushi Secret Realm's demon cave to become food for the blood abyss vines. Ning Yaoguang was so enraged that she actually broke through her cultivation and broke free from the immortal binding rope, almost killing Di Yudao. Tears streamed down Di Yudao's face as he recounted how he had been led astray, how they were siblings, and how his father had raised Ning Yaoguang. Ning Yaoguang wavered. Before this, she had always treated Di Yudao as her own brother. Di Yudao's father, her master, was someone Ning Yaoguang respected like a father. Ning Yaoguang didn't dare to imagine how sad her master would be if she killed her master's only son. In the end, her heart softened. She only tied Di Yudao up and planned to hold a starry school devouring ceremony. She would punish him for his crimes. However, Ning Yaoguang didn't expect that Di Yudao had raised a group of demonic soldiers. Chapter 1679. These demonic soldiers not only let Di Yudao go, but also broke into the Alcade branch and captured all the students as hostages, forcing Ning Yaoguang to give in. Ning Yaoguang was strong, but how could she ignore the lives of her students? She had to give in. But the students of the Alcade branch were not cowards. After seeing Di Yudao's true face, they fought back crazily, disregarding their own lives. They had to save Ning Yaoguang. Di Yudao's eyes were bloodshot. Regardless of whether the students resisted or not, they were all killed by him. That night, the Alcade branch was filled with blood, and corpses were everywhere. Ning Yaoguang's heart was also completely dead that night. After Di Yudao woke up, he realized what he had done. The corpses of the students of the Alcade branch must not be found, otherwise it would definitely cause a huge uproar. So he used the all-venom formation to seal all the corpses of the students behind the rocks. Devour in the all-venom formation, the corpses of the students would not rot, but their souls would never be able to reincarnate. Di Yudao wanted to force Ning Yaoguang to sign a master-servant contract with him. But Ning Yaoguang directly jumped into the all-venom formation. Her lover's soul had already died. Her students were all dead because of her. She, Ning Yaoguang, did not have the face to continue living in this world. She would rather use her living body and soul to be sealed in the all-venom formation, to be a lonely dead spirit every night, than to live as a slave for Di Yudao. When Ning Yaoguang was imprisoned, Di Yudao forged a letter from her, saying that she had left to travel far away. Although Meng Baichuan and the others were worried, they felt that their junior sister had always been lively and liked adventure, so they did not take it to heart. But Ning Yaoguang did not come back. And after that night, the students of the Alcade branch were all slaughtered. Di Yudao created the illusion that the Alcade branch was attacked by the demonic cultivators, and all the students died, turning the Alcade branch into a place that everyone knew. From then on, the Alcade branch became a forbidden place that no one stepped into. Until the Xiaoyao 7 came. After listening to Ning Yaoguang's recount, Meng Baichuan couldn't believe his ears. Who could have imagined that the normally gentle, calm, upright and kind-hearted director was actually so filthy and disgusting? From the moment Ning Yaoguang appeared, Di Yudao had been staring fixedly at her, his gaze seemingly infatuated. After so many years, Ning Yaoguang's appearance had hardly changed because she had been sealed in the all formation. She was like the most brilliant flower, gorgeous and proud, blooming under the bright and beautiful sun. Radiant jade. Di Yudao said hoarsely, "Yaoguang, all these years, I seem to have missed you. Why didn't you accept me back then? Do you know that in all these years, I have never fallen in love with another person? My love for you is deeper than anyone else in this world." Ning Yaoguang's eyes were filled with disgust. "Your so-called love is to rob and kill my lover, my student. Your so-called love is to lock me up in this formation for 18 years. Di Yudao, there is nothing more disgusting than you in this world." Meng Baichuan and the others suddenly came to their senses, and stared fiercely at Di Yudao. "You crazy beast, you don't even spare your own student, even our junior sister." Chapter 1680. Today, I will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and seek justice for those innocent students who died. Xing Danqing also laughed coldly. "You said that you would get rid of demons, but it turns out that you are the real demon. Di Yudao, now that things have come to this, you have nothing to say. What else do you have to say?" Di Yudao's bloodshot eyes glared at the people in front of him. Suddenly, he hurled madly into the sky. Good, since you all called me a beast and said that I am a demon. Today, I will let all of you die in the hands of a demonic cultivator." As soon as he finished speaking, flying boats suddenly descended from the sky. Dozens of black-clothed men rushed out from each flying boat. These black-clothed men were only in the Golden Core realm. But their expressions were twisted and their eyes were bloodshot. They did not have any consciousness. Their bodies also emitted a thick demonic aura. Seeing this, the expressions of Meng Baichuan and the rest changed. This was actually a team of 100 demonic cultivators. Just as Ning Yaoguang had said, Di Yudao had secretly raised a group of demonic soldiers. Of course, Xing Danqing and the rest of the nascent soul cultivators would not care about these demonic soldiers if they were just a few. But with so many demonic soldiers gathered together, they would form a majestic demonic aura. Even if Xing Danqing and the rest came into contact with such a thick demonic aura, they would not feel good. Di Yudao looked at them being forced into a panic by the demon soldiers, and the smile on his face became even more arrogant. 18 years ago, I was able to slaughter everyone in the Alcade branch. Tonight, I will kill all of you. As long as you all die, the history of tonight will be decided by me. In the future, everyone will know that it was Su Weiluan, the demonic cultivator, who barged into the Starry School and killed all the students in the Alcade branch. He even killed College Chief Xing and College Chief Mang. I, the College Chief, went through a lot of trouble to capture Suiluan. At that time, I will still be the College Chief of Starry School. Even the doors of the Xian world's royal family will be open to me. And all of you will just be bones under my feet. Ha ha ha. Clang. Diyudeo's laughter did not stop. Two Guqin sounds rang out at the same time. Ning Yaoguang had launched an attack on Diyudao. On the other hand, Mayan's zither has triggered the Shin musician's skill, mutual accord contract. Dazzling golden runes were drawn in the air bit by bit, forming a formation. In just a few seconds, a huge spirit-locking talisman was drawn in the void. The zither sounded again. The spirit-locking talisman was activated, and the whole talisman in the void suddenly burned. Specks of golden light fell from the sky like fireworks, landing on Meng Baichuan, Xing Danqing, and the others, as well as the devil soldiers. A strange scene occurred. When the demonic aura coming from the demonic soldiers touched the golden light, it sizzled as if it was being burned. Then, it disappeared without a trace. There were even a few demon soldiers with thick demon qi on their bodies that let out shrill screams and tumbled to the ground. How could Xing Danqing and Meng Baichuan not know this? They unleashed their full cultivation and subdued all the demonic soldiers. At the same time, Ning Yaoguang's sword landed on Diyudao's neck. Diyudao looked at the demon soldiers that had fallen to the ground in disbelief. These demon soldiers had always been his life-saving talismans, his last trump card. However, the demon soldiers that he had placed his last hope on were subdued so easily. Chapter 1682. Shoshian Continent. In the Spirit Wind Palace of the Polar Domain, the atmosphere was solemn. The immortals standing on both sides had more or less fear and uneasiness in their eyes. There were also people who turned their eyes to the throne from time to time. Only when they saw that powerful and handsome godlike man could their hearts settle down. Of course, there were also people who looked at the door from time to time, as if waiting for some news. Finally, a black figure slowly formed at the door of the palace. The eyes of everyone in the palace brightened. He's finally back. Star Wolf strode into the palace and respectfully knelt down in front of Di Mingju. Subordinate Star Wolf pays respect to the Lord. This subordinate has already investigated the movements of the Nether Realm and the Devil World. Lord Star Wolf, quickly tell us, what are these two parties plotting? Before Di Mingju could reply, someone below had already impatiently asked. It's not that the gods of the polar domain couldn't hold their breath. But the movements of the Nether Realm this time were simply too strange. First, the holy Darkeen flame suddenly reignited. Later, it was rumored that the only son of the Lord of the Nether Realm, Yin Yuani, had obtained the inheritance of the Holy Spirit of the Netherworld, and was about to become the real, Holy Emperor of the Netherworld. Now, he was frequently meeting with the devil generals of the Devil World, as if they were plotting something. The strength of the polar domain was naturally much higher than that of the Nether Realm. But if the Nether Realm really formed an alliance with the Devil World, then the polar domain would be attacked from all sides. This was a result that the gods of the polar domain didn't want to see. Star Wolf lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, the Nether Realm will form a marriage alliance with the devil race. As soon as these words came out, the entire hall was quiet for a moment. Marriage alliance? Who will marry who? Star Wolf, it is said that the revered demon lord Jun Shirtian has a daughter who is wandering outside. But whether this daughter is dead or alive, whether she is ugly or beautiful, where she is, no one knows. But the revered demon lord suddenly had the idea to arrange a marriage alliance for his daughter. Then who will marry the revered demon lord's daughter in the Nether Realm? Is it Yin Yuani? Star Wolf, not Ian Yuani. Ian Wuji didn't want his precious son, Ian Yuani, to marry a wife of unknown origin, so he secretly prepared another candidate. It is said that that person is also Ian Wuji's son. However, for some unknown reason, no one knows of his existence. As Star Wolf spoke, his expression became strange for a moment. Who knew that Ian Wuji hadn't even vaguely suggested that he wanted to replace Ian Yuani with another son? Jun Shirtian, the Dark Lord, mocked Ian Yuani in public and said that he didn't deserve his daughter. On the other hand, the other son that Ian Wuji mentioned, Jun Shirtian, said that he was barely acceptable. Recalling Ian Yuani's gloomy face, Star Wolf couldn't help but want to laugh. However, his smile quickly disappeared and his expression turned solemn. But no matter what, the demon world and the nether realm are very satisfied with this result. If nothing unexpected happens, I'm afraid the marriage contract will be concluded in the next few days. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the people who were listening to this news as if it was an anecdote changed drastically. Yes. What did it mean for both sides to be satisfied? This meant that the demon race and the nether realm would form an alliance without any ill feelings. The merging of these two enormous forces would pose a great threat to the polar domain in the future. Lord! Someone raised his head and said excitedly, "We must stop this matter. We must not let the nether realm and the demon race form an alliance. Otherwise, there will never be a day of peace in the polar domain." Chapter 1683. Di Mingju faintly looks at the speaker. "How do you think we should stop it?" This question caused everyone to be stumped. Yes. How could they stop this? Could it be that he would rush to the demon world and say, "You are not allowed to have a marriage alliance with the nether realm"? Star Wolf suddenly coughed lightly, and said, "Junjuanshang, there's another piece of news from the fiend side. It is said that Jun Shirtian is not particularly satisfied with the son-in-law candidate. Therefore, the marriage certificate does not intend to form an eternal contract, but only a 3-year marriage. After 3 years, whether his daughter is not found or his daughter is not satisfied with the marriage, the engagement will be annulled." It's only a 3-year engagement. Star Wolf's words caused the eyes of many people in the hall to light up. An elder on the rightmost side of the line immediately stepped out from the crowd and said excitedly, "Lord, didn't the demon lord say that he wanted to find the most outstanding man in the world to be his son-in-law? In this world, which man could be more outstanding than Jun Shang? As long as you propose a marriage alliance with the demon race, then what does the nether realm have to do with you?" Yes. Anyway, it was only a 3-year engagement. If the demon lord's daughter was really unbearable, they could just call off the engagement. In this way, we can not only dissolve the alliance between the nether world and the devil realm, but also pull the devil race to our side. It's truly killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Wonderful, wonderful. In the High Sky Hall, everyone's discussion was in full swing. They could practically see the miserable state of Ian Wuji, the lord of the nether region, crying bitterly. As for worrying about the engagement, what a joke! What kind of person was their Jun Shang? In this world, is there a man more outstanding, more handsome, and more powerful than Jun Shang? No. Not a single one. If Jun Shirtian doesn't even like his lord, then his daughter doesn't need to get married. However, Elder Chang, Han Yi, and the others who are closest to Di Mingju, and even Xing Lang, quietly shrink their necks. Please don't say any more. Didn't they feel that the entire Lingshao palace was about to freeze? Finally, the murderous and piercingly cold atmosphere in the hall made the people who were discussing in full swing feel that something was wrong. "You mean, you want me to arrange a marriage?" The man's cold voice was no different from his usual tone. But when it entered the ears of everyone in the hall, it caused them to shiver. Then, unexpectedly, he raised his head and met a pair of cold and sharp blue eyes. Some people's legs went soft and they almost knelt on the ground. Oh my God! Jun Shang is angry. Di Mingju looks down at the deathly pale complexions of the people below. They're in fear and trepidation. The corner of his mouth slowly hooks up into a mocking arc. When did the polar domain become so timid that they had to rely on marriage to protect themselves? A marriage alliance between the nether realm and the demon race has made you so anxious that you have even thrown away your pride and dignity in the past. Di Mingju rarely says such long words, but each of his words is like a heavy hammer, ruthlessly pounding on everyone's hearts. The faces of everyone in the hall were filled with shame, and they wished they could find a hole to hide in. Yes. What was wrong with them? The future mistress of the polar domain, how honorable, how sacred a position was that? What if he could casually betroth it to the daughter of the demon lord? What if his daughter was not beautiful at all? What if the daughter was just a mortal? Could it be that the entire polar domain had to revere such an unbearable woman as the divine empress? No, no, no. Absolutely not. This is simply more frightening than facing the alliance between the nether realm and the demon race. Chapter 1684. Di Mingju slowly stands up, his cold and untamed gaze sweeping over everyone present. Ben Jun's choice of wife, only Ben Jun can decide. If any of you mention a marriage alliance with the demon race again, sure, this lord will fulfill your wish. I'll give you the position of Polar Domain's sovereign lord, and let you go and form a marriage alliance with the fiend race. How about it? No, no, no. Absolutely not. Emperor, please calm down. We won't dare to do it again. The daughter of the demon race is nothing. How can she be worthy of our emperor? If a mere nether realm wants to form an alliance with the demon race, then so be it. If they dare to invade my polar domain, then they won't be able to return. Di Mingju sneers, then let Ben Jun see your performance. With that, he disappeared in a flash. My lord. Jun Shang. Elder Yu, who was the first to propose the marriage, was dumbfounded. Jun Shang's aura disappeared. Where did you go? Elder Chang coughed lightly, and with a straight face, he said, You've disappointed the ruler too much. You actually want the ruler to marry to maintain the peace of the polar domain. What's the difference between this and pushing the ruler into a marriage alliance? Elder Yu and the rest of the polar realm's exalted gods all revealed ashamed expressions. There were even people whose eyes were brimming with tears as they said, We have failed to live up to the Lord's expectations, to actually think of such a cowardly way to avoid battle. Is His Majesty really going to abdicate the throne and never come back because he's angry with us? How can this be? The polar domain's monarch can only be Lord alone. The future mistress of the polar domain is Jun Shang's wife. Only Jun Shang can choose her. From now on, we won't dare to say anything. Jun Shang, please come back quickly. Elder Chang, cough, cough, cough. Don't worry. Although his lordship is angry, he also said that it depends on your performance. I think Jun Shang is just going to the Xiuzhen continent to relax and will be back in a few days. Don't tell me you guys haven't noticed that Star Wolf, Han Yi, and the rest have already caught up. Only then did everyone return to their senses. When they found out that the monarch was still the monarch, they heaved a long sigh of relief. The crowd quickly dispersed. Since they had decided not to form a marriage alliance with the demon race, the polar domain naturally had to start preparing for war. Elder Yu couldn't help but mutter, Why do I feel that Lord has been going to the lower realms more and more often recently, and the time he spent there is also getting longer and longer. Elder Chang coughed twice again, then turned around and left with an indifferent expression. Hee hee, that's because the noble future mistress of the polar domain you speak of is in the lower realm. Just wait, Jun Shang will soon give all of you a big surprise. Tian Yi Men. From time to time, clanking sounds could be heard from Ling Qingwan's room. What followed was the sound of whipping, the painful moans of the maids, and the pleading voices. Useless thing. Useless things. I asked you to prepare the immortal medicine needed for the Fanghua quicksand, but you can't even do such a small thing. What use do I have for you? Sob sob sob, young master spare me, young master spare me. The maid cried and begged for mercy as she rolled on the ground. It's not that we don't want to prepare, It's that after the polar domain announced to sever their relationship with our Tian Yi Men, those shops that supply immortal medicines, no longer agreed to sell us immortal medicines at a discount. Some rare immortal medicines, they would rather keep them than sell them to us. This servant has no other choice, sob 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 sob. How could Ling Qingwan listen to what she's saying? The whip in her hand lashes out even more fiercely. Chapter 1685. He whipped the maid until her flesh was badly mangled and her body was covered with cuts and bruises. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open. Ling Yuexia looked at the mess in the room and frowned in disgust. She then said in a low voice, "Qingwan, what are you doing?" When Ling Qingwan heard Ling Yuexia's voice, she slowly restrained her ruthlessness. Soon after, she couldn't help but cry out. She threw herself into Ling Qingwan's embrace with tears in her eyes. "Master, those immortal medicine shops are going too far. They're actually not even willing to sell us a few immortal medicines. When will I be able to cultivate my magnificent quicksand?" "Useless thing." Ling Yuexia pushed her away and said coldly, "It's just some ordinary immortal medicine. If they don't want to sell it, do you think we can't get it? What's more, the most important thing about the wind magnificent quicksand has never been those spirit herbs or immortal herbs, but that one medicinal catalyst." Speaking of this catalyst drug, Ling Qingwan became even more hysterical. "I really don't know how those good-for-nothings do their work. They clearly said that they already found the catalyst drug, but after so long, they still haven't presented it to me." Ling Yuexia looked at her in disgust, but she immediately restrained her disgust and gently comforted her. "Don't worry, Master has already sent your two martial uncles down a few days ago. No matter what, they will bring back the drug for you." When Ling Qingwan heard this, her eyes immediately lit up. She knew the cultivation of her two uncle masters. They were much higher than her. Furthermore, they were extremely serious and meticulous in their work. They were loyal and devoted to their master. With these two martial uncles helping her, she would definitely be able to obtain the magnificent quicksand's medicinal catalyst. Ha ha ha, at that time, she will have Jun Mayan's face and receive the Emperor's favor. The position of the extreme domain divine Empress, endless glory, splendor, wealth, power and status, all of this would belong to her. Cultivation continent, azure blue world. Li Zuping bowed in fear and trepidation. In front of him were two old men in their 50s. The man was called Gu Yuchong and the woman was called Nguilan. If one only looked at their clothes and appearance, they would be treated as the most ordinary mortal husband and wife. Whether it was his figure or appearance, there was nothing special about him. The aura around him and the spiritual energy around him were all gone. However, Li Zuping knew that these two people were not mortals. They were immortals from the Shushan continent. Their strength had already reached the point where they could crush him to death with a casual flick of their fingers. Gu Yuchong looked at Li Zuping and asked, "You said you found the wind quicksand's catalyst medicine, but you let her escape." Li Zuping was instantly sweating profusely, and he almost fell to his knees. "Immortal Venerable, please calm down. That magnificent quicksand ingredient, although it's not with this subordinate, but this subordinate knows where it is. This subordinate has already inquired clearly. When Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan heard that he hadn't lost the catalyst drug, their faces relaxed a little. Oh. Where is the catalyst now? Li Zuping wiped the sweat off his forehead, replying to the two immortal venerables. The catalyst had been captured by the people of the Starry School and was currently locked up in the Alcade branch. There are barriers inside and outside the Starry School, and there are many nascent soul cultivators inside. I was really afraid of alerting them, so I could only wait here for an opportunity. It's just a school barrier, and Guilan snorted in disdain. Li Zuping immediately flattered, with the two of you taking action, the barrier of the Starry School is naturally useless. The people inside are not even worthy of being crushed to death like ants by you. Chapter 1686. Guyu rushes to his feet. Let's set off immediately and bring the medicine back to the Shushan continent. Yaoguang branch. Mu Yan retracts her hand from Sui Luan's pulse and gently shakes her head at Ning Yaoguang. Vice Dean Su's injuries are very serious. When he fought with Di Yudao, he had to burn his devil body in order to preserve the reincarnation array. But these injuries, I'm sure I can cure them. Even if I can't restore his strength, at least he can live like an ordinary person for a few more decades. But there's still a fatal problem with him. Mu Yan looks at Ning Yaoguang and slowly says, 18 years ago, he was fed a beast soul pill, and his divine soul suffered a huge injury. Later, after becoming a devil, in order to keep improving his cultivation, he desperately cultivated, regardless of the possibility of Qigong deviation and his divine soul being shattered. Moreover, most of the forbidden techniques that he practiced had great side effects. After Su Yiluan was thrown into the Fushi secret realm, before the secret realm closed, a devil cultivator happened to pass by. The devil cultivator sucked dry the black-clothed man who was guarding at the side. He found that Su Yiluan looked like neither a human nor a ghost, but he still maintained his consciousness and kept calling for Yaoguang. The devil cultivator saw his persistent appearance and found it very interesting. Just before the secret realm closed, he rescued him. He also put a devil seed in his body, wanting to cultivate him into his own devil soldier. Who knew that Su Yiluan's willpower was so strong that ordinary people simply couldn't imagine, plus his divine soul was integrated with the Chang Jiao's beast soul. Not only was he not swallowed by the devil seed, but he also swallowed the devil seed and sucked dry the devil cultivator's devil qi. Su Yiluan completely became a devil, but he still retained his consciousness. Even the murderous and tyrannical nature of the devil seed was forcibly suppressed by his longing and love for Yaoguang. But it was precisely because of this forced suppression and crazy cultivation that his body became more and more unbearable. Mu Yan sighs softly. Now, his body and soul are already riddled with holes. I'm afraid he won't live for more than a few days. Ning Yaoguang stares at the man lying on the bed, her expression absent-minded and stupefied. Her eyes flow with deep sadness and resentment. She hated Di Yudao, but she hated herself even more. If she hadn't mistakenly trusted Di Yudao, the students of the Alcade branch wouldn't have died, and Ilungsu wouldn't have ended up like this. If it wasn't for her indecisiveness, she wouldn't have missed out on Ilungsu for 18 years. In the end, before their relationship could even begin, they had to be separated by life and death. A large rough hand slowly caressed her face, gently wiping away the tears on her face. Only now did Ning Yaoguang realize that her face was covered in tears. She grabbed the man's weak hand and sobbed, "Ah, Su, don't leave me again, okay? I've waited for you for 18 years, and I've finally reunited with you. I haven't told you that I like you. I haven't even grown old with you and given birth to a bunch of children. If you die, what am I going to do alone?" Su Yiluan's dim eyes lit up, The smile on his face was gentle yet sorrowful. Yao Guang, I've been waiting for you to say you like me for 18 years. Do you really like me? Is it the teacher's fondness for the student, or it's a wife's fondness for her husband? It's a lover's fondness. Ning Yaoguang couldn't bear it any longer and cried out in pain. Chapter 1687. Ah Su, 18 years ago, I wanted to resign my position as Yaoguang Branch's dean to find you. I want to tell you with my own mouth that I like you, not like a mentor to a student, but a woman's love for a man. I want to ask you, are you still willing to accept me? I'm so careless, so stupid, I can't do anything well, I can't wash clothes or cook, I can't do needlework. Are you willing to have such a wife? No, it's not like that. Su Yiluan's breathing becomes a bit heavier. You're the best Yaoguang in the world. I'm really happy to be able to hear you say. His voice becomes softer and softer, and his eyelids slowly droop. Yaoguang, whether it's a human or a demon, I just want to find you and protect you. Now, I've finally done it. Ning Yaoguang's heart suddenly jumps, her stiff fingers tremble, and the hand she's holding softly hangs down. Ah Su. She throws herself on the man and bursts into tears. Ah Su, I beg you, don't leave me. On the night she saw the light of day again, she lost the man she loved the most in the world. This kind of rebirth, this kind of life, what's the point? Ning Yaoguang absent-mindedly opens her tearful eyes. She obsessively looks at Su Yiluan's face, murmuring, Ah Su, wait for me, I'll go with you now. On the road to the Yellow Springs, you won't be lonely with me by your side. Ning Yaoguang slowly raises her hand, condensing 100% of her spiritual energy in her palm. She's about to slap the top of her head. Wait! Mayan promptly calls out to stop her. Meng Baichuan is so frightened that he rushes over and scatters the spiritual force in her palm. Junior sister, what are you doing? Ning Yaoguang bitterly smiles. Senior brother, Mayan, I'm shouldering the lives of the entire Yaoguang branch's students. Now that even Ah Su has left me, I really don't know what reason I have to live. Perhaps I shouldn't have come out of the seal at all. Mayan helplessly presses her temples. Senior Yaoguang, can you listen to what I have to say? Vice Dean Su really can't live as a human, but I didn't say that he would disappear. Ning Yaoguang and Meng Baichuan looked up at the same time. What do you mean by that? In fact, as early as when Mu Yen started to feel Su Yiluan's pulse, she had already discovered that he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Furthermore, Su Yiluan's body had already been completely contaminated by demonic qi, so it was impossible for him to withstand the healing of spiritual power. Even if Mu Yen was willing to sacrifice her lifespan to use Saint's benevolence, it was impossible to save him. Mu Yen recalls Ning Yaoguang's experience, and how she has nothing now, and she can't help but feel sad. At this moment, Qi Huang's voice rang in his ears. Isn't it easy to keep him alive? Haven't you noticed that although his human soul is riddled with holes, a part of the Changjiao soul has already merged with his divine soul? Among all the beast souls, the Changjiao soul is the easiest to be carried by an artifact. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been made into a beast soul pill so easily. Mu Yen stares blankly. To be carried by an artifact, you mean to turn Vice Dean Su into an artifact spirit? Bah! 7 Brilliance flew into a rage. Do you think an artifact spirit is some Tom, Dick, or Harry that can casually appear? Jun Mayan, you're insulting this deity. Mu Yen, fine. Honorable artifact spirit, I was wrong, okay? Chapter 1688. So, in the end, how can we let Deputy Dean Su survive? Qi Huang humphed, what does a mortal's life and death have to do with this sage? Why should this sage tell you? Unless. Mu Yen, unless what? Qi Huang, cough, unless you fill the Tianguang ruins with more crystals for this sage to play with. Mu Yen stares blankly at first, then she quickly takes out her Tianguang ruins jade key and immediately screams, Qi Xiao Huang. You're courting death. So many high-grade crystals, and you fucking squandered them all for me. Qi Huang puts on a brave front and shouts, where would there be a lot of high-grade crystals? Isn't it just a few 100,000? Jun Mu Yen, this sage doesn't want to criticize you, but you're too poor. A dignified Shan musician descendant, the master of the Tian Mo Qin, you actually live so shabbily. You've simply lost this sage's face. Why aren't you going to earn more crystals? Mu Yen grimaces, Qi Xiao Huang, I think your skin is really itchy. Do you want to taste the itchy meat set tonight? Jun Mu Yen, who do you think you are? You dare to threaten this sage? Qi Huang stomps his feet in the space. However, when he sees that Mu Yen is really going to pluck the Tian Mo Qin, he immediately cowers. I need the rootless wood. Suiluan's soul needs the rootless wood to parasitize. You can put him in the Tian Mo Qin first, and then put him in when you find the rootless wood. His soul won't collapse, and he won't fall into reincarnation. Mu Yan's attention is indeed diverted by him. She frowns, rootless wood. What kind of elixir is that? How come I've never heard of it? Where can I find it? The rootless wood is not an elixir, but a rare material for refining tools. It can't be found on the market. Jun Mu Yen, you're so ignorant, of course you haven't heard of it. Qi Huang has an arrogant look, the expression on his face almost says, Jun Mu Yen, come and beg me. Beg me and I'll tell you. Looking at this brat's behavior, Mu Yan's hands itched. She really wanted to beat him up. Qi Xiao Huang, if you don't say it, don't expect me to put a single spar in your flowing light seal for the next month. Qi Huang said angrily, bastard, if you don't give the crystal to me, who are you going to give it to? Are you keeping another gigolo outside? Mu Yen presses her temple. 7. Small. Huang. 7 Brilliant snorted coldly. All right. Let me think about it. In this broken cultivation continent, there aren't many places with rootless wood. How long has it been since I last came to this broken place? How would I remember it? You don't even fucking know where the rootless wood is, yet you're showing off in front of me. Qi Xiao Huang, you idiot. Hearing Mu Yen say that she wanted Suiluan's soul to reside in the rootless wood, Ning Yaoguang was ecstatic. Mu Yen, is what you said true? Can rootless wood really save Su? Mu Yen, you can only survive as a soul, but even a soul can cultivate. It's just that it's very, very difficult to condense it back into a physical body. It might take 1,000 years, or it might take 10,000 years. Moreover, Senior Yaoguang, if your cultivation base cannot break through and transcend the tribulation, after you die, Vice Headmaster Su can only stay in the rootless wood alone. Even so, are you willing to let Vice Headmaster Su live? Ning Yaoguang suddenly froze, the happy smile on her face frozen. However, at this moment, Suiluan's voice comes from the Tian Mo Qin. Chapter 1689. I'm willing. Even if there's only a sliver of a chance to be with Yaoguang, I'm willing to bet on it. Without Yaoguang, whether it's 1 day, 18 years, or 10,000 years, it makes no difference to me. Yaoguang, are you willing to give me another chance to stay by your side? Ning Yaoguang's tears rolled down. All right, Su, we'll be together forever. Whether it's 1 day, or 10,000 years, if I'm going to die, I'll find another, rootless wood, and accompany you forever. Mu Yan didn't say that a normal person's soul couldn't enter the rootless wood, and she believed that even if she said it, Sui Luan and Yao Guang wouldn't change their minds. Otherwise, these two wouldn't have waited for 18 years, and the other would rather die than live alone. But there's another problem. Mu Yan said, I don't know where to find the rootless wood. Meng Baichuan and Ning Yaoguang looked at each other, not to mention finding the rootless wood, they hadn't even heard of it. The rootless wood. Little master, I know. Xiao Bao, who was obediently following Mu Yan's tale, suddenly heard Bai Xie's voice. Xiao Bao blinked and took out the Bai Xie sword. Where is the rootless wood? Bai Xie shook the sword, because it had eaten its fill yesterday. It was very lazy today. Among the cultivators that were thrown into the Fushi secret realm, there was a demonic cultivator. I heard him mention the rootless wood. It seems to be on a small island in the Woodfern Sea. It's quite close to here. That was already more than 10 years ago. That demonic cultivator in the Fushi secret realm was resentful that the rootless wood wasn't ripe, otherwise with the rootless wood, he would definitely be able to leave the Fushi secret realm. I even heard that demonic cultivator roaring, what 8 years, it's only 8 years away. So I'm guessing that the rootless wood on that small island should have just ripened by now. If no one else found it, it's probably still there. This news was simply an unexpected surprise, smashing Ning Yaoguang and Sui Luan into a daze. Ning Yaoguang didn't dare to imagine that she could really come back from the dead, that she could really have a chance at happiness. She immediately decided to go to the island alone to look for the rootless wood. Although the embodiment of Sui Luan's soul can reside in the Tian Mo Qin, the Tian Mo Qin is not like the rootless wood. The Tian Mo Qin itself is a lethal weapon, a sharp weapon, and it naturally has a powerful tool spirit like 7 brilliance. Sui Luan has been residing in the Tian Mo Qin for a long time. His soul has been consumed little by little, until his soul flies away and disperses. Before leaving, Ning Yaoguang gives all the zither scores that he has collected over the years to Mayan. The two of them had known each other for a very long time, and the age gap between them was also very big. But because of the sound of the zither, because of the music, the two of them could not help but regard each other as confidants. Ning Yaoguang, in particular, didn't know how to thank this junior of hers. If it wasn't for her, Sui Luan would have died tragically in the Alcade branch courtyard, Diudeo's scheme would have succeeded, and she wouldn't even have been able to see the light of day again. Mu Yan, Ning Yaoguang, will never forget your kindness to me. Ning Yaoguang's tone was indifferent, yet his eyes were filled with boundless firmness and resolution. From today onwards, so long as you have any errands for me, I, Ning Yaoguang, will definitely go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. If I violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy me. After she said such an oath, she found that the young girl in front of her was only faintly smiling. Chapter 1690. She wasn't moved, nor did she refuse in fear and trepidation. It was as if she had long been accustomed to such a scene. She was obviously so young, but she could already see the prosperity of the world and deal with it calmly. Ning Yaoguang suddenly felt that such a scene, such a girl with a light smile, was so familiar, as if it had left a thick and heavy stroke in her distant memory. She suddenly couldn't help but say, "You look like someone I know." Mu Yan was curious, "Who?" "The most distinguished young lady of my Ning family." Ning Yaoguang murmured, "Many, many years ago, I once saw her from afar. At that time, I was still very young. Just that one glance made her feel ashamed of her inferiority, and she couldn't forget it. Even in her dreams, she wished to become a carefree and unrestrained woman like her. Later, she slowly forgot the young lady's appearance, but that dream and obsession were still deeply engraved in her mind." Ning Yaoguang didn't know why she suddenly remembered this scene. Perhaps it was because when Mu Yen smiled, it was as light as the clouds and the breeze, as if nothing had happened. It was so similar to that person. Ning Yaoguang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Nothing. I was just talking nonsense. Mu Yen, I'm leaving, take care. After sending Ning Yaoguang away, Mu Yen began to prepare for Su Zi's operation. When he heard that Mu Yen was going to cut open Su Zi's abdomen and do some heart surgery, Xing Danqing was so scared that he almost fainted. He wouldn't agree no matter what, and he almost wanted to kill Mu Yen. In the end, Su Zi threatened to kill himself, saying that if she didn't let the little sister do the operation for him, he would rather die now. Xing Danqing had to pinch his nose and agree. However, in his heart, he was filled with 10 million distrust towards this little girl, Mu Yen. What a joke. This girl was already the strongest fighter in the 3 academies, the Lord of Clear Sky, Yi Liangqin. The talisman she drew was also the champion of the finals of the Heavenly Light era. As a musician's auxiliary ability, it was said to be the strongest in history and never in the future. If she could also cure diseases and save people. She could even cure Su Zi, who couldn't be cured by the doctors of Ziyunjia. Then what was this guy? An evildoer. A monster. This was absolutely impossible. Xing Danqing was determined to stay on the side to observe the operation. If Su Zi's life was in danger, he would definitely stop him. During Mayan's operation, she also very much needs the help of a high-level cultivator with powerful spiritual power. There were only 2 or 3 nascent soul cultivators in the Starry School. Ning Yaoguang set off for the Woodfern Sea in search of the rootless wood. Because of Di Yudeo's death, Meng Baichuan was elected as the Starry School's college chief at the last minute. The mentors from the other branches were also doing their best to clean up the mess left behind by Di Yudao. No matter how he counted, Xing Danqing, the Phoenix Sky Academy's dean, was the most spacious and had the densest spiritual energy. This time, Xiaobao didn't follow Mu Yen into the operation room. Instead, he was dragged away by the people of the Xiaoyao sect. The experience of breaking into Di Yudeo's secret chamber that night was a huge blow to the Xiaoyao sect. It was one thing that they couldn't beat Junior Sister, but could it be that they couldn't even beat Junior Sister's son? What a joke. These martial uncles and martial uncles were all so shameless. However, reality gave them a heavy blow. If Xiaobao picked up the evil warding sword, he could easily beat all of them down. Chapter 1691. Even without the Bixia sword, Xiaobao only lost to Yun Ruhan, Qin Zhou, and Leng Yuma, who were the strongest. Ling Yuxing could barely fight Xiaobao to a draw with his speed. Chu Moli was not good at fighting and had no interest in fighting, so he did not participate in the fight with Xiaobao. Thus, Luo Yu became the only person who was beaten by Xiaobao, regardless of whether she had a sword or not. Luo Yu was about to cry, "Sixth senior sister, you can't bully people like this. You're so powerful, but why is your son so abnormal? How can I, the 7th martial uncle, show my face in the future?" Xiaobao remembered that his mother told him not to bully his martial uncles and martial uncles. He also remembered that these martial uncles and martial uncles had bought him good things. Thus, he walked up with a straight face and patted Luo Yu's shoulder. "7th martial uncle, don't cry. Continue to work hard. Next time, hold on for 10 minutes. Ha 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 ha." The other people of the Xiaoyao school laughed. Leng Yuma hugged Xiaobao and kissed him. "Oh, Xiaobao, you're so cute." Xiaobao's face was red. He dodged left and right and said coldly, "Men and women should not touch each other. 4th martial uncle, let go of me." Another round of laughter came from the square. However, at this moment, there was a buzzing sound. The Bixia sword flew out of Xiao Bao's body without being summoned. Xiao Bao's expression changed. Who's there? Almost at the same time, the 6 people of the Xiao Yao school prepared for battle and looked at a place in the sky. Who are you? Why did you come to the Alcade branch in hiding? Ling Yuma shouted, come out if you can. Ha ha, you're so young, but you're so arrogant. However, I forgive your ignorance. In any case, you're all going to die soon. As they spoke, 2 figures wearing brown robes slowly appeared on the other side of the square. Behind them were Li Zuping and 2 boys in blue robes. One of the boys was holding a lump of flesh that was no longer human. Seeing the lump of flesh and Li Zuping, the expressions of the people of the Xiao Yao school changed. Chu Moli's face no longer had that rare fake smile on it. His deep voice carried a trace of coldness as he slowly said, Lu Ruoxuan. That lump of flesh and blood was Lu Ruoxuan, who had been tortured to the point that she didn't even resemble a human. She couldn't speak or move, her hair was white, her face was covered in wrinkles, and she was even delirious. Gu Yuchong coldly snorted, his face full of anger. A good magnificent quicksand medicinal catalyst has been tortured to the point where it only has a little bit of luck left. I wonder how much medicinal effect it will have after being used as medicine. All of you deserve to die. And you. Gu Yuchong suddenly turned around and ruthlessly slapped Li Zuping's face. Li Zuping screamed and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. And Guilin gloomily said, you've already found the magnificent quicksand, but you still can't protect it. Trash that can't even complete such a small task, what's the use of keeping you? When Li Zuping saw Guilin and Gu Yuchong's murderous expressions, he was scared out of his wits. He didn't even care about his own internal injuries. He ran over and hugged Gu Yuchong's leg, crying and begging, Senior Gu, I know I was wrong. Please spare my lowly life. Gu Yuchong looked at him in disgust and was about to kick him away. Chapter 1692. Li Zuping suddenly thought of something and said loudly, Right, Mayan has a zither. That zither is even more powerful than a godly artifact. I can't use it at all. A zither. More powerful than a godly artifact. Li Zuping nodded frantically, yes. I can guarantee it with my life. That zither can shoot thousands of blades at the same time. It can instantly increase or decrease a person's fighting strength. It can also use the sound of the zither to create a sound wall. Not only can the sound wall resist an attack from a nascent soul cultivator, it can also reflect attacks. Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan's expressions changed. Are you telling the truth? Absolutely. Li Zuping said loudly, Senior, think about it. Even if it's a godly artifact, a nascent soul cultivator, can't completely control it. If a nascent soul cultivator can't control an extremely powerful zither, then it can only be a magic treasure that's far more powerful than a godly artifact. Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan both looked at the people from the Xiao Yao sect with a burning desire in their eyes. Although they didn't have high hopes for magic treasures from the cultivation continent, if it really was a treasure that was above the level of a godly artifact, it would be a good harvest for them. Gu Yuchong arrogantly said to the people of the Xiao Yao sect, Hand over the zither and I'll let you die a quick death. The old man in front of him was clearly speaking in the most ordinary tone, and his body didn't emit any powerful pressure. However, the people of the Xiao Yao sect still looked serious and their bodies were stiff. Sweat even dripped down from their foreheads. The only one who didn't feel Gu Yuchong's invisible pressure was Xiao Bao. The zither is mother's. No one can take it from me. A cold childish voice sounded fearlessly. Gu Yuchong couldn't help but look over in surprise. Although he didn't deliberately release his killing intent, the invisible pressure and the crushing cultivation made these ants of the cultivation continent unable to resist. At this moment, it was difficult for them to even stand. But this 5-year-old child actually didn't feel his pressure at all. How is this possible? However, with one look, Gu Yochong's eyes almost popped out. This is a godly artifact. No, it's a godly king artifact. It's of a higher grade than a divine monarch weapon. What kind of sword is this? He abruptly turned his head and exchanged a glance with Nguyen. They both saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Let's not talk about the zither that Li Zuping mentioned. Just the sword in this child's hand and the mystical aura it emitted made it a rare treasure even in the Shushan continent. This time, the two of them came to the cultivation continent to look for the catalyst drug. And Nguyen said with a smile, "Old man, it seems that we'll have to stay in this cultivation continent for 2 more days." Gu Yuchong casually threw the Lu Ruoxuan in his hand to the boy behind him. "You guys take the medicine and report to the sect master first. Just say that Guilin and I have some matters to deal with in the cultivation continent." The two children were their confidants, so they naturally had no objections. They lifted Lu Ruoxuan and soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. Gu Yuchong looked at the evil warding sword in Xiaobao's hand and said slowly, "Little boy, if you obediently hand over the sword in your hand, I'll leave your corpse intact. How about it?" Before Little Treasure could answer, the other people of the Xiaoyao school were already in an uproar. Chapter 1693. No one should even think of touching our martial nephew. If you want to kill Xiao Bao, you'll have to step over our corpses. In the blink of an eye, Yun Ruhan, Qin Zhou, Leng Yuma, Ling Yuxing and Luo Yu were all ready for battle. They firmly protected Xiao Bao's small figure behind them. Xiao Bao blankly looked at the people blocking in front of him. For a moment, he couldn't tell what the sour and warm feeling in his chest was. When he had just reunited with his mother, Xiao Bao had once asked, "What are martial uncles and martial uncles?" In reality, Xiao Bao didn't like people being so intimate with his mother. It was as if his mother would be snatched away by others. But his mother had told him, Xiao Bao has 6 martial uncles and martial uncles, as well as a martial granduncle and a master. This means that in the future, Xiao Bao will have many relatives who will love Xiao Bao like my mother. Isn't this good? Relatives who love Xiao Bao like his mother. Xiao Bao thought of his uncle and grandfather, but he was still confused. In his life, the only family member that he remembered the most was his mother, and now he had another father. But what kind of relatives would martial uncles and martial uncles be? But at this moment, Xiao Bao felt that he seemed to understand. Gu Yochong's face revealed a mocking smile, "An ant trying to shake a tree, you overestimate yourself." As soon as his voice fell, he flicked his sleeves. Boom! A monstrous wave, accompanied by a powerful attack, came crashing down. Yun Ruhan, Leng Yuma, Ling Yuxing and Luo Yu, who were standing at the very front, were directly thrown to the ground. Their blood and qi churned, and they almost vomited blood. But Qin Jiao suddenly turned around, his iron tower-like body once again blocking Xiao Bao's originally exposed small body. His thick arms trembled, but he held Xiao Bao firmly in his arms. There wasn't even the slightest tremor or jolt. Xiao Bao's blue eyes widened, and he softly called out, "Second martial uncle." Qin Jiao revealed a silly smile towards him. However, Gu Yochong's next wave of attack arrived. Qin Jiao tightly held Xiao Bao in his arms, all the spiritual power in his body condensing on his back. Boom, a loud sound. His figure was ruthlessly sent flying, and he could no longer hold back a large mouthful of blood, spurting it all out. Some of it landed on the ground, and some splashed onto Xiao Bao's neck. It was wet and warm. all the bones in Chinjo's body seemed to emit a crisp sound. His skin and flesh were even more bloody from being scratched by the air blades and the ground. However, Xiaobao, who was in his arms, was well protected and not injured in the slightest. And Guilin clicked her tongue. His skin is thick and he can take a beating. Ha, old man, watch me catch that kid for you. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Chinjo. However, just as her hand was about to press down on Chinjo's head and directly end his life, her expression suddenly changed and she quickly turned her body. A dagger gleaming with a cold light slashed across her neck. Ling Yuxing's beautiful face was expressionless. Seeing that his attack had failed, he immediately disappeared. When he reappeared, it was another fatal attack that caught Nguyen off guard. However, there was no trace of panic on Nguyen's face. Instead, she was overflowing with interest. Interesting, really interesting. The speed of a fasting cultivator was actually able to catch up to us. Old man, this kid is too interesting. Why don't we bring him back? As she spoke, she suddenly stretched out her hand. At the same time, powerful spiritual power and pressure spread wildly. Chapter 1694. The next moment, Ling Yuxing's groan could be heard in the air. And Guilan's withered hand quickly grabbed onto Ling Yuxing's snow-white neck, and she let out a carefree laugh. Kid, your innate talent and speed is really too interesting, but it's still too early for you to fight with me. Why don't I extract your spiritual root now and see how you can have such speed? After he finished speaking, his other claw seemed to have succeeded, and it mercilessly grabbed towards Ling Yuxing's chest. Don't touch my fifth junior brother. Yun Ruhan and Len Yuma roared in unison and unleashed their domains. Luo Yu's puppets also lined up in a line. The big ones were as large as huge rocks, and the small ones were like flowers scattered by a fairy. They all attacked Nguyen. This time, Gu Yochong's expression became even more astonished. 2 domains, and such pure and powerful ones at that. I didn't expect such a small academy to have so many talents. Alright, I'll take you on. Gu Yuchong leaped up and casually swung his hand, sending Yun Ruhan and Luo Yu back to their original positions. Under Yun Ruhan's cover, Len Yuma dodged Gu Yochong's attack. Her long blades swept through the air and slashed towards Nguyen. And Nguyen's movements were indeed obstructed. However, she didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed loudly and threw the nearly unconscious Ling Yuxing to the ground. Her withered hand grabbed the air, and a small silver hammer appeared in her palm. She smashed it towards Len Yuma's blade. With 2 loud bangs, Len Yuma and Yun Ruhan were both sent flying, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Behind Yun Ruhan, a scarlet claw chased after her. The red claw emitted a scorching aura. Wherever it passed, rocks would shatter and plants would wither. The scarlet claw seemed to have a life of its own as it chased after Yun Ruhan. Eldest senior brother. Luo Yu cried out in shock. Without hesitation, she pounced forward and used her back to block Yun Ruhan. With a loud bang, Luo Yu's back emitted a faint silver glow before disappearing in a flash. The crimson claws did not manage to pierce through Luo Yu's back, but Luo Yu still spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted from the intense collision. Shao Qi. Yun Ruhan's heart was breaking. She hugged the unconscious Luo Yu, her cheeks turning as red as blood. Gu Yuchong and Nguyen had already gathered together leisurely. Looking at the mess on the ground, they were calm and unruffled. Interesting. These little fellows are all very interesting. But it's still troublesome to bring so many. How about this? Let's dig out their spirit roots and bring them back for research. And Guilan smiled warmly. That's exactly what I was thinking. No. Sue. You. Guys. Injury. Harm. Me. Master. Uncle. Master. Uncle. A powerful and cold childish voice suddenly rang out. Then, the simple and unadorned Bixia sword burst out with a dazzling light, carrying Xiao Bao as it charged toward Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan. In that instant, the spiritual energy in the air suddenly changed violently. A terrifying pressure and nomological laws faintly concealed in the air caused Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan's expressions to change. What's going on? Is the air surging with immortal energy? How is this possible? This is the cultivation continent, how can there be immortal energy to use? Although this was what she told herself. Chapter 1695. But the energy that surged in the air could even burn their skin and hair. It was clearly immortal power, which was a level higher than spiritual power. Boom! The sword slashed down, gravel flew everywhere, and the ground shook. Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan were forced to separate. The Bixia sword turned and flew towards Gu Yuchong. And Nguyelan was about to help her husband, but suddenly saw a snow-white ball of fur flash in front of her, and suddenly become bigger. Awu, the fat rabbit let out an angry roar, and pounced towards Nguyelan. A quarter of an hour later, Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan were panting, and they looked a little haggard. But their eyes were flickering with flames that were almost boiling. It's the immortal physique. It's actually the immortal physique. Gu Yuchong's voice was almost trembling. And it's the immortal physique that has already ascended to the hollow immortal level. Ha 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 ha, Nguyelan, we really made the right choice this time. Even in the Shushan continent, it was difficult to find 1 in 10 million people with the immortal physique. According to the legends, as long as it was refined into an elixir and consumed, it would be able to become immortal and ascend to immortality. And they actually found it. And Nguyelan touched the wound on her face and looked at Xiao Bao coldly. That's the immortal spirit body for you indeed. To think that a mere level 3 false immortal would be able to injure 2 golden immortals like us. And Nguyelan was actually extremely shocked. It was not just the heaven-defying strength of the 5-year-old Xiao Bao. There was also that strange furry rabbit. When she was fighting with it just now, it actually almost swallowed a piece of flesh. It was not biting, but directly swallowing. It was as if the flesh was not under her control, and wanted to tear it apart and rush towards the rabbit's mouth. And that sword. Even if it was a deity king weapon, the aura that it emitted should not be so frightening. Even the students from the Alcade branch, who looked ordinary, were more frightening than the others. After withstanding such terrifying attacks from her and Gu Yuchong, they could actually stand up and fight together with the baby. 7 small ants, not even a golden core stage cultivator. They actually forced the 2 golden immortals into a difficult situation. It was simply unimaginable. Where did these people, especially that baby, come from? However, Gu Yuchong was not interested in thinking about this. At this moment, he even threw the Bixia sword to the back of his mind. His heart and eyes were filled with the immortal spirit body. As long as he could obtain the immortal physique, breaking through to the profound immortal stage was just around the corner. Gu Yuchong's burning gaze landed on Little Treasure. At this moment, Little Bao's face was ghastly pale, and there was a bloody hole on his shoulder that was gurgling with blood. His tiny body was trembling slightly due to the extreme weakness caused by the exhaustion of his immortal power. Beside him, the fat rabbit fell limply to the ground, unconscious. In front of him, the people of the Xiaoyao sect were lying on the ground, but they were still trying to protect him, and refused to pass out. Little Treasure pursed his lips, and his face was stretched taut. Something hot seemed to want to spill out of his eyes, but he held it back. Gu Yuchong walked toward him step by step, his eyes shining with greed. "You're not allowed." Ling Yuma grabbed his leg. "You're not allowed to touch my martial nephew." Gu Yuchong chuckled coldly as he kicked the man away and walked over to Xiao Bao. Chapter 1696. Little kid, are you going to come with me obediently, or do you want me to chop all the people around you into pieces before coming with me? Xiao Bao glared at him coldly, his expression stubborn and cold. Gu Yuchong's heart skipped a beat. What was going on? He was clearly just a 5 or 6-year-old kid, but he actually felt the urge to submit just now. That formless pressure was even greater than what the clan leader, Ling Yuexia, had given him. What was the background of this kid with the celestial body? With this thought in mind, Gu Yuchong's heart surged with anxiety. He quickly reached out to grab Xiao Bao. No matter where this kid came from, he was determined to have the celestial body. Xiao Bao subconsciously took a step back, but was suddenly pulled into a warm embrace. He was stunned, and when he turned his head, he met Chu Moli's calm gaze. Xiao Bao blinked. His mother had said that among all the uncle masters, the third uncle master was the smartest and the most abnormal. She told him not to provoke him for no reason and not to learn from him. But usually, third martial uncle smiled warmly, didn't like noise, and didn't like fighting. What he did most every day was painting. Xiao Bao did not understand why his mother said that the third uncle master was the scariest among all the uncle masters. However, at this moment, he somewhat understood. There was still a faint smile on Chu Moli's face. However, that smile contained a chill that could make one's blood run cold. The originally gentle and harmless man's aura had completely changed in an instant. Gu Yuchong frowned and looked coldly at Chu Moli. Chu Moli's gaze made him very unhappy. Chu Moli was clearly just a cripple, an ant that could be stepped on at any time, but he was actually showing such an evil and disdainful expression. Gu Yuchong sneered and said, "I don't want to bother with a cripple like you. Hand over the kid in your arms, and I can let all of you die quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for making you wish you were dead." Chu Moli smiled faintly. "Is that so?" Gu Yuchong said, do you think that by stalling for time, someone will come to save you? Dream on. Even if everyone in the Starry School comes, I can still kill all of you." Before he finished speaking, his figure had already disappeared from his original spot, and reappeared in front of Chu Moli. His palm, which was condensed with powerful spiritual power, fiercely slammed towards the top of Chu Moli's head. However, before that palm could really land, it was caught by a pale and thin hand in the air. Chu Moli slowly raised his head. When he saw Gu Yuchong's shocked expression, his originally pale face no longer had the slightest trace of blood. His lips had even turned purple. However, the palm that he was holding onto Gu Yuchong was the complete opposite. The skin on the surface of his palm was turning redder and redder. In the end, it was as if his entire palm was soaked in blood. Gu Yuchong's eyes widened in shock. The expression of disbelief on his face slowly twisted into one of horror. What are you doing?" Gu Yuchong let out a terrified roar. It was impossible not to tremble, impossible not to fear. This was because he discovered that after Chu Moli's hand had grabbed his wrist and Chu Moli's hand had slowly turned red, his celestial power had actually been madly pouring towards Chu Moli. This was not ordinary celestial power, but the source of celestial power. Once it was lost, it could not be easily replenished. Chapter 1697. As he lost more and more of his immortal force source, his cultivation level would also decrease bit by bit. Gu Yuchong had never experienced something like this before. He was scared out of his wits. In fact, he didn't even notice that the power Chu Moli was using to restrain him was really too weak. In fact, as long as he struggled with all his might, he would be able to break free easily. Unfortunately, Gu Yuchong did not come alone. Behind him was Nguyen. When Nguyen saw that the situation wasn't right, the silver hammer in her hand suddenly blurted out. He also let out a furious roar and charged over, crashing into Gu Yuchong and Chu Moli. Chu Moli and Xiao Bao, who was in his bosom, were sent flying. The wheelchair overturned and Chu Moli fell to the ground in a sorry state. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his complexion became even paler. Third martial uncle. Xiao Bao hugged his body, which was gradually turning cold, with tears in his eyes. It was all to save him. It was all to save him that the martial uncles were injured so badly. When Gu Yuchong was saved by his wife, he realized that he did not lose much of his immortal energy source. Just now, he was actually frightened by a little ant at the stage of fasting, and almost made a fool of himself. Gu Yuchong flew into a rage. A long sword appeared in his hand, and he charged towards Chu Moli with eyes brimming with killing intent. However, the sword was only an inch away from Chu Moli's forehead. Suddenly, a rapid sound of a zither rang out. The sound blade flew through the air and smacked the tip of Gu Yuchong's sword with a clang, causing his attack to fall to the side. Just who is it that dares to obstruct me again and again? Gu Yuchong turned around angrily. However, when he saw who it was, he widened his eyes in shock. Even Nguyen gasped in disbelief. It's you. The portrait in the young master's room. And Nguyen screamed. How are you still alive? Gu Yuchong and Nguyen would never forget this woman's appearance even if they were beaten to death. This was because they had come to the cultivation continent for the magnificent quicksand's medicinal catalyst. The young master wanted to use the magnificent quicksand to replace another person's appearance and luck. This person's portrait had always been placed in Ling Qingwan's bedroom. Ling Qingwan observed it every day, feeling both jealousy and longing. Even among the Tiani men, there were not many people who had seen this portrait. However, as Ling Yuexia's trusted aides, Gu Yuchong and Nguyen had seen her a few times. So, when they see Mayan at this time, their shock is simply indescribable. Didn't Ling Qingwan say that she had already killed this woman in the Yanwu continent? But why was she still alive? Right, what was the name of the woman in the portrait? And Nguyen thought about it in a daze. Then, she suddenly recalled Ling Qingwan's hysterical scream. Jun Mayan, who do you think you are? What right do you have to gain the emperor's favor? You bitch. Bitch. Why won't the emperor accept me even after you're dead? Ha 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 ha, Jun Mayan, I will soon have your looks and replace your destiny in life. I will marry Di Mingju, and become the future mistress of the polar domain. And Nguyen's eyes widened and her lips trembled. She suddenly remembered what Li Zuping had said about the woman with the zither. Jun. Mu. Yen. That Shin musician successor of Yanwu continent, Jun Mayan, she's actually still alive. How was this possible? Chapter 1698. Mu Yan looks at the bloody mess on the ground, and the hand holding the Tian Imo Qin can't stop trembling. Because the operation needs an absolutely enclosed and quiet environment. So she had Xing Danqing isolate the entire space with a protective shield. She can't hear any sound inside, and she can't sense what's happening outside. However, when the operation is about to be completed, Mu Yan feels a burst of palpitations and panic. Su Zi's life is in her hands. If she leaves now, it's tantamount to directly taking Su Zi's life. Mu Yan can only suppress her panic and finish the operation as fast as possible. She also tells Xing Danqing to observe Su Zi's condition, and then hurriedly leaves. However, even if she already has a bad premonition, the scene she sees still makes her brain explode, and she almost completely loses her mind. It's just a short 2 hours, everything was clearly fine before she entered the operation room. But now, her Xiao Bao and her fellow apprentices are all covered with cuts and bruises, and they're barely breathing. Nyang Qin. Xiao Bao didn't cry in the face of such pain and despair, but now he can't help but burst into tears, swirling in his eyes. He wants to throw himself into Mu Yan's arms and tell her his fear and grievances. But he immediately remembers that he's already a little man. He vowed to become very, very strong, to protect his mother. Xiao Bao swallows back his tears, picks up the Bixia sword, and walks to Mu Yan's side. He didn't come to seek comfort, he came to fight with his mother. Xiao Bao wants to protect his martial uncle, and protect his loved ones. Mu Yan doesn't hug and comfort Xiao Bao as usual, but coldly plucks the Tian Mo Qin. Echo sound activates. Rich spiritual power slowly flows into the bodies of the Xiao Yao sect people and Xiao Bao, soothing their injured bodies. The sound of the zither changes, and the realm of stars activates. The people of the Xiao Yao sect slowly closed their eyes and fell asleep. Mu Yan, Xiao Bao, you go and protect martial uncle and martial uncle. Xiao Bao opens his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, he straightens his small body and carefully drags the unconscious Yun Ruhan and the others to the side, firmly guarding in front of them. Just now, martial uncle has been protecting him, and now Xiao Bao also has to protect martial uncle. The fat rabbit wobbles over to Xiao Bao's side, and next to him, he lies down. Gu Yuchong and Nguilan also recovered from the shock. The trace of fear in his heart was slowly replaced by excitement. Guyu said faintly, I was wondering, how could there be so many treasures in a small academy in the lower realm, and even a celestial physique? Jun Mayan, you're actually still alive. His voice paused for a moment before he asked tentatively, what about the Emperor? Is he also in the cultivation continent? Mu Yan looks at him coldly and doesn't answer. Gu Yuchong immediately laughed out loud. I'm afraid the Emperor has already forgotten about a lowly woman like you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have not appeared until now. If that's the case. His eyes shine brightly and a powerful pressure suddenly erupts from his body. Then the zither in your hand and the Shin musician inheritance in your body will all be mine, ha 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 ha. Mu Yan, if you want the Tian Mo Qin and the Shin musician's inheritance, then it depends on whether you have the life to take it or not. Gu Yochong's smile froze as he glared at the girl in front of him. Just now, he had unleashed the aura of a golden immortal. Chapter 1699. Even a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage would not be able to withstand such a terrifying pressure. Those with lower cultivation bases would directly vomit blood and faint. Li Zuping, for example, had only been affected by the aftershock, and his eyes had already rolled back as he fainted on the ground. However, the two people in front of him, one big and one small, seemed to completely disregard his pressure. On the contrary, the killing intent and sharpness emitted from Mu Yan's body caused his hair to stand on end. Gu Yuchong was furious, but he also had an ominous premonition. Old woman, he said in a low voice, let's join forces and finish this quickly. And Guilan nodded. This woman was able to escape from the hands of the young master, so we definitely can't let our guard down. If we really fail miserably in such an easy task, we won't have the face to see Sect Master again. After saying that, a powerful spiritual power suddenly burst out from the two of them. Mayan's movements are also very fast. In a flash, the Tian Mo Qin turns into 7 swords, revolving around her. At the same time, the astral realm was released, and the tune of Graceful Feather slowly changed. After upgrading the Shin musician skills to the 5th level, in addition to the upgrade of the original skills. In fact, Mu Yen also obtained 2 new skills. The other was a medic skill called Calm Soul. The other was a martial skill called Lotus Steps. Lotus Blossoming Step was a strange movement skill that used the sound of the zither to drive the body's rhythm and stimulate the potential of the Shuja speed. The disadvantage was that at the beginning and intermediate stage of Lotus Step by Step, it could only be used by burning the spiritual energy in one's body. The more spiritual power he burned, the faster the movement of Lotus Blooming Steps became. Be it in the air, on land, or even in the water. As long as Lotus Blooming Steps is activated, Mayan's figure can shuttle through the air like a ghost, making it impossible for people to catch her. After the change in tune, the sound of the zither abruptly rose in pitch, alternating between thick and thin, faintly whimpering, as if countless ghosts were passing through the air. Lotus Steps activated. Almost at the same time, 3 figures suddenly flew into the sky and fought. Every move and every style was as fast as lightning, so fast that people couldn't even catch a glimpse of it. Little Bao stared fixedly at the sky while the immortal force within his body circulated with all his might, and his little hands unconsciously clenched tightly. Chu Moli's voice suddenly sounded beside her ear. I didn't expect little junior sister's strength to actually reach such a level. He did not know when he had left, floating like a dream. On his pale face, a pair of bottomless eyes stared at the sky. Whether it was the 3 Academy competition or exposing Di Yudao, in fact, Mu Yan had never used her full strength. The people of the Xiaoyao sect always knew that Mu Yan was very strong. Let's not talk about anything else and just talk about the blood-slaughtering sword formation left behind by little martial uncle. Now, every member of the Carefree sect could easily survive for 2 hours in the blood-spitting sword formation, which contained 40 streams of sword chi. Even a golden core cultivator would not be able to stay in the blood-slaughter sword formation for more than 2 hours. Many students from the Starry School came to observe the Alcade branch's daily training and witnessed the power of the blood-slaughter sword matrix. They all called them perverts. However, what these people did not know was that little junior sister was many times more perverted than they were. Chu Moli only knew that as early as half a month ago, before little Bao came, the sword chi of Mu Yan's blood-slaughter sword matrix had already increased to 100 streams. Moreover, her blood-slaughter sword matrix was specially made by little Uncle Master. Every stream of sword chi was infinitely close to the power of a nascent soul cultivator. Chapter 1700. The people of the Xiaoyao sect have always known that their little junior sister is very strong and abnormal. However, Chu Moli only realized it at this moment. Just how strong is his junior sister, Jun Mayan? Perhaps, just a few days ago, even if she had to personally confront Di Yudao, she wouldn't have suffered any losses. However, even so. But Gu Yuchong and Nguelan aren't Di Yudao, and they're definitely not ordinary nascent soul cultivators. They're even several times stronger than out-of-body realm and passing tribulation realm cultivators. Even in the Shuzhen continent, their strength is suppressed by the heavenly Tao. But it's definitely not something that a little cultivator at the peak of Anidia like Mayan can contend against. The 3 figures in the air suddenly separate. Mayan's complexion is as pale as snow, but her expression is still as cold as ice. Her right hand lightly grabs at the void. The glittering and translucent 7 absolute swords slowly take shape in her hand. Gu Yuchong and Nguelan's complexions are ashen, their eyes faintly flickering with fear and horror. Suddenly, Nguelan clutches her chest. On her body, from her left shoulder to the right lower abdomen, there's an abrupt split open, and blood gushes out. Nguelan quickly takes out an elixir and swallows it. This superficial wound is quickly healed under the effect of the elixir, and it doesn't cause her any major harm. But her expression doesn't ease, instead it becomes malevolent. Old man, this woman absolutely cannot be left alive. Gu Yuchong firmly nods. Who could have thought that a little girl at the immediate stage would be able to evenly match them for dozens of rounds? Even in Guilan, a golden immortal, was careless for a moment and was confused by her strange movements, and suffered a sword wound. And Guilan is currently in perfect condition, but that's because Mayan's cultivation is really too low. The damage she can cause to the two of them is negligible. But what if this woman is given a little more time to grow? Wait until her cultivation gets higher and her spiritual power gets stronger and stronger. The power of each sword, coupled with her strange movements, what kind of frightening opponent would she be? The muscles on Gu Yuchong's face twitches, and his heart surges with joy. Fortunately, they came to the Shuzhen continent. Fortunately, they found Mayan before she had matured. Otherwise, in time, she would become a big problem for Tianyi men like the Shin musicians in the past. Gu Yuchong slowly exhales, and a sinister smile gradually appears on his face. If I'm not mistaken, that strange movement of yours just now has exhausted all your spiritual power. And Guilan, Mayan, no matter how talented you are, if you want to win against us, you will have to cultivate for at least another 10 years. But you no longer have this opportunity. Before she could finish her words, and Guilan suddenly leapt, pouncing towards Xiao Bao and Chu Moli. Her movements are as fast as lightning. Furthermore, he was still talking a moment ago, but in the next moment, he attacked without any warning. It wasn't even Mu Yan who was attacking, but the 5-year-old baby Xiao Bao. Mayan's face. The Yan Chs's Mu He managed to block Nguyelan's attack on Xiao Bao and Chu Moli. Mu's Qian Luo Qi In's Yan, whose Mu each, Xiao Qin, the Ti Li Yan's is a palm. Mu's. Mu. Mayan couldn't dao. Finally, she couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Nyangqin. Xiao Bao screams, throwing himself to Mayan's side. Tears roll down from his big eyes. Chapter 1701. Nyangqin, you're hurt. Mu Yan gently caresses Xiao Bao's wet face and softly says, Xiao Bao, don't be afraid. Nyangqin is fine. But she has no spare energy to comfort Xiao Bao. Because Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan have clearly discovered that this diversion tactic is effective. So, they attack the defenseless people of the Xiaoyao sect once again. Mu Yan's hands quickly form a seal in the void. Colorful light flashes. The 7 absolute swords fly back to his hands and turn back into the Tian Mo Qin. Hum. The sound of the Qin is like a golden spear. A protective shield quickly rises around the 7 people of the Xiaoyao sect. Divine hands weave the heavens. There is a loud bang. And Guilan and Gu Yuchong's attacks simultaneously fall on the sound wall. The protective shield makes a cracking sound and instantly shatters. Mu Yan, who is playing the Qin, spits out another mouthful of blood because of the backlash. But she doesn't dare to slack off in the slightest. The sound of the Qin rises again. The divine hands weave the heavens, weaves a new sound wall, firmly protecting her brothers and sisters. The usual leisurely smile on Chu Moli's face has long disappeared. It is replaced by a bottomless gloominess and the shattered protective shield in his eyes. He suddenly says loudly, Jun Mu Yan, are you stupid? Protecting us will only speed up your death. If you die, we won't live either. There is a loud bang and the sound wall of the divine hands weave the heavens breaks again. Mu Yan's body shakes. Her spiritual power is almost exhausted. But she doesn't hesitate to pluck the strings again. Chu Moli clenches his hands into fists and suddenly smashes them on the ground. The back of his hands is dripping with blood, but he doesn't feel it. Jun Muyen, are you a fool? He says in a hoarse voice, we've only been brothers and sisters for a few months. Is it worth it for you to risk your life for us? However, in response to him, the sound wall still unhesitatingly weaves again, and it once again collapses with a loud bang. Chu Moli had never hated his own incompetence so much, hated the time he had squandered away so much in the past. If only the people of the Xiaoyao sect were a little stronger. If they were so strong that they didn't need little junior sister's protection and could stand beside her and fight shoulder to shoulder with her. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect that the Shin musician who once wanted to destroy the world, the successor of the new generation, would be so soft-hearted, an idiot who doesn't even care about his own life for others. And Guilin laughed loudly. The hammer in her hand suddenly grew larger and smashed down on the sound wall. Pfft. Blood sprays on the Tian Imo Chin like rain. Mu Yan's body swayed. Finally, she couldn't hold on any longer and softly fell down. Qi Huang's voice faintly reached his ears. I'll help you. I'll kill them for you, mother. Mother. Xiao Bao's cries were heart-wrenching and lung-splitting, and then turned into a frenzied killing intent. How dare you hurt my mother? I'll kill you. Mayan absent-mindedly opens her eyes and sees Xiaobao's figure recklessly rushing out. Her heart suddenly palpitates. Her voice trembled as she said, Qi Huang, help me protect Lil's treasure. Qi Huang roars, Jun Mayan, you stupid woman. Why do you only care about other people's lives? Do you know that if you continue to exhaust yourself like this, you'll die? Save. Xiao Bao. No. Qi Huang's voice is callous and resolute, no one can order me. Jun Mayan, I want you to live, so you must live. Chapter 1702. As soon as his voice falls, a mellow and powerful energy slowly flows into Mu Yan's body. Little by little, it heals the fatal injuries in her body. And Qi Huang's figure fades a bit more. Between his eyebrows, a flame-like pattern slowly appears. But it quickly disappears. But Mu Yan can't care about this right now. She watches as Xiao Bao rushes towards Gu Yuchong and Nguilan, his little figure drowning in their attacks. She immediately feels her heart and courage shatter. Xiao Bao. Gu Yuchong grasps the air, and grabs Xiao Bao's neck. Feeling the power and tenderness of the immortal physique under his palm, his face reveals a crazed and twisted smile. Little doll, since you've delivered yourself to the door, then don't blame this old man for devouring this delicious immortal physique of yours first. The Bixia sword suddenly flies over, chopping down at Gu Yuchong, but it's sent flying with a casual slap. Mu Yan's eyes are about to split open, but her body, which is being repaired by Qi Huang, is simply unable to budge. Xiao Bao's neck is gripped, but there's no trace of fear or pleading for mercy in his eyes as he looks at Gu Yuchong. There's only an ice-cold murderous intent. You killed me, hurt my mother, my father will never let you off. Ha ha ha. Gu Yuchong laughs, your father. Who do you think your father is? A trash from the lower realms, how could he not let me off? As soon as his voice falls, he suddenly hears a pop that's neither too light nor too heavy. His arm grabbing Xiao Bao's neck unexpectedly bursts apart without warning. Xiao Bao's body falls from the sky, but he doesn't hit the ground. Instead, he's lifted by an invisible force, and is sent into a familiar embrace. Gu Yuchong stands in place, dumbfounded. He's even thinking in his mind, what was that sound he just heard? It's like something's broken. Immediately after, a piercing pain spreads from his arm to his brain. Ah! Gu Yuchong howls like a pig being butchered, clutching his hand as he falls to the ground. And Guilan's complexion changes, and she rushes over to hug Gu Yuchong in shock and anger. But when she sees that his right hand has been completely blown up into minced meat, she immediately turns her head and snaps, "Who is it? Who dared to hurt me?" The enraged voice came to an abrupt halt, as if a crowing rooster had been choked by someone. And Guilan's eyes were wide open. Her slightly trembling lips turned into violent trembling. His eyes were filled with intense shock and fear. "What did you say just now? Who is his father?" The tall man skillfully carried the boy in his arms and looked down at them. "What do you think Ben Jun is?" "Emperor. Emperor." And Guilan sat down on the ground. Extreme fear caused her face to contort and her entire body to tremble like a sieve. Gu Yuchong comes back to his senses from the pain. He sees Di Mingju holding Xiao Bao, and sees that the two of them have almost identical blue eyes. His whole body goes cold. Yes. Why hadn't he thought of that? How many immortal physiques could there be in this world? This 5-year-old child comes from the lowly Yanwu continent. Where would he get so many treasures? So he's actually the Emperor's son. Earlier, they actually wanted to kill the Polar Domain Imperial Lord's son. At that moment, there was only one thought in Gu Yuchong's mind. Finished. They're all finished. It's not only him and Nguyen that's finished, even Tian Yimen is finished. Chapter 1703. Xiao Bao blankly stares at the man in close proximity. For a long time, he can't come back to his senses, as if he's dreaming. He reaches out and gently touches Di Mingju's cheek. It's warm and hard. It's his father's embrace, his breath. Di Mingju quickly turns to look at Xiao Bao. His grave and stern brows are filled with unconcealable worry. Is Xiao Bao hurt? Saying that, he looks at Mayan with even more concern, and is about to walk towards him. But at this time, Xiao Bao makes a soft, cautious voice, "Daddy." Di Mingju turns to meet Xiao Bao's gaze. He sees that those big blue eyes are filled with hope, expectation, uneasiness, and unspeakable grievances. Di Mingju's stone-like heart instantly softens into a complete mess. He hugs the child in his arms tightly, and says in a gentle tone that he has never used before, "Xiao Bao, don't be afraid, Daddy is here." Xiao Bao flattens his mouth, bean-sized teardrops tumbling down from his eyes. At this moment, all the grievances, fear, and panic accumulated in the battle just now finally erupts. "Wow! Bad Daddy! Why did you only come now? Nyangqin was injured, why didn't you show up? You didn't come when Xiao Bao couldn't find Nyangqin. You didn't come when Xiao Bao was attacked by a monster. You didn't come when Xiao Bao called Daddy little by little. Boo-hoo-hoo, bad Daddy. Xiao Bao doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Boo-hoo-hoo." Di Mingju is flustered as he pacifies the crying person in his arms. After discovering that his pacification is fruitless, he can only put on a stern face and shout in a low voice, "Don't cry. You're a man, how can you cry at the slightest thing?" Xiao Bao finally stops crying after being reprimanded, but he still hugs his neck and sobs. He wipes his snot and tears on his clothes, muttering over and over, "Bad Daddy." Mayan stands up and sees this scene. Her eyes can't help but ache, but her heart is warm, as if it's soaked in honey. Even if Xiao Bao cries bitterly when he reunites with her, he didn't release all of his feelings and grievances. Because in Xiao Bao's subconscious, he had always wanted to be a little man. He wants to protect his mother and not let anyone hurt her. He doesn't want to be a burden to her. However, at this very moment, in front of Di Mingju, he has completely exposed his grievances and frailty. Because for Xiao Bao, Di Mingju is already his relative, someone he can rely on with all his heart and protect his mother together with him. Mu Yan has never been more aware of this than now. In fact, Xiao Bao has always longed for a father like Di Mingju who he worships, who he respects, who he can chase after. Di Mingju finally pacifies Xiao Bao, and directly teleports in front of Mu Yan, pulling her into his embrace. Xiao Bao also comes back to his senses. He doesn't even care about his shyness anymore. He just cried and anxiously throws himself into Mu Yan's arms. "Nyangqin, how are you? You vomited so much blood just now." Mu Yan easily holds her son in her arms. She reaches out and gently wipes away the tears on his face. "Don't be afraid. Look, isn't Nyangqin fine now?" Di Mingju grabs her wrist, and his divine sense penetrates her body. Then there's an astonished expression on his face. Di Mingju doesn't have medical skills, but his cultivation is much higher than Mu Yan's. Chapter 1704. With a casual inspection, he was able to recover the injuries of a small cultivator. Mu Yan's 5 viscera and 6 bowels and dantian had clearly suffered serious injuries. The injury was almost irreversible. However, at this moment, her body was completely unscathed. Just now, there was a powerful energy that cleansed her body. That energy wasn't any weaker than his own. "Yan Yan, your injury is already healed." Di Mingju opens his mouth, very much wanting to ask who healed him. Xiao Bao is already cheering, hugging Mayan's neck. "Nyangqin, you're all right, that's great." Mu Yan strokes his little head. Facing Di Mingju's doubtful gaze, she promptly turns away with a guilty conscience. She softly says, "I have a way to treat myself, Di Mingju, don't worry. The matter of 7 brilliance must not be leaked. Especially in front of Di Mingju and young martial uncle." Qi Huang had severely warned her that if she exposed her existence in front of these two people, they would both be consigned to eternal damnation. Mu Yan doesn't want to hide anything from Di Mingju. She doesn't even care that Di Mingju has already guessed her identity as a Shin musician. But Qi Huang was the only exception. Without Qi Huang's permission, before she was certain that it was safe, she would never allow Qi Huang to be exposed. Di Mingju mistakenly thinks that her abnormal recovery is due to the Shin musician's ability, so he throws it to the back of his mind and turns to look at Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan. Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan crawled over on their knees, kowtowing and begging for mercy. "Emperor, spare us. Emperor, please spare my life. We didn't know he was your son. I won't dare to do it again. We won't do it again." Looking at their current appearance, they did not have the slightest bit of glory that belonged to the upper realm's golden immortals. Instead, they were like 2 stray dogs, despairing and helpless. Di Mingju looks down at them coldly. "Who sent you here?" Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan looked at each other and saw the panic in each other's eyes. "Your Majesty, we are..." Before they could finish their stuttering words, they heard the man's bone-chilling voice. "Tian Yimen and Ling Qinwan still haven't learned their lesson." Gu Yuchong and Nguyelan shuddered, and they were terrified to the point they almost fainted. "Monarch! Monarch! We won't dare. We won't dare to do it again. Please spare us, Emperor." Both of their heads smashed into the bluestone floor again and again. They were drenched in blood, but they did not dare to stop. "Emperor, I beg you to spare us on account of Tian Yimen's kindness to the polar domain that year. Please spare us one more time. Tian Yimen." Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. He dug out this name from the corner of his memory. In the Shin musician inheritance that Bailey Yinlu instilled in her before her death, and in a part of her memories. Mayan seems to have seen the name Tian Yimen before. It is a school that is irreconcilable with the Shin musicians. The sect master of the Tian Yi sect, in particular, hated Bailey Luo to the core. He had set up schemes and plots several times in an attempt to put Bailey Luo to death. But because the Shin musicians have too many enemies, the Tianyi men can only be considered as one of them. Bailey Lu didn't have a deep impression of this sect. The most obvious evidence was that Bailey Lu didn't even remember the name of the Tianyi men's sect master who had repeatedly harmed her. But thinking of this sect's hatred towards the Shin musicians, there was also the hatred of killing Changyu in the Yanwu continent, and now almost killing her fellow apprentice brothers. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.